My name is Tyler Fornes, and I am one of the co-hosts of the Good, the Bad, and the Hungy AEW podcast here on the Voice of Wrestling Podcasting Network. We take a broad scope approach to the world of All Elite Wrestling and the entire universe of Tony Khan. We talk about the big matches, the big stars, the promos, the storylines, and we also look at it from a big picture perspective. How are things going to change over the course of the next 10 years with AEW still in the picture? How are companies like WWE going to adapt and adjust to AEW? Are they going to be a similar way like they did with WCW in the late 1990s? Will there be a counterpunch? We talk about all of that and more on The Good, the Bad, and the Hungy every week on the Voice of Wrestling Network.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
To the highway in a brand new day. Gotta let it go. So fast to finger down. Dance tonight together. Here everyone is singing. 你看到我就怕，头皮发麻，我的手。
Hello and welcome back to Open Voice Gate for July 15th, 2024. We are members of the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. You can find us on the Voices of Wrestling podcast feed or on our own dedicated Open the Voice Gate feed on all podcast catchers and applications. You could follow us on Twitter at Open Voice Gate. If you'd like to donate to the show, click the link in the show notes. It'll take you to our redcircle.com landing site. You click the red boxes to sponsor this podcast, and you can set up a one-time or reoccurring donation. No obligation whatsoever, but we would like to thank all of our previous donors. I'm one of your hosts. It's your old pal, Mike Spears, and as you can tell by the show length, this is a long one, and a real fun episode. Case and I are joined by the official English voice of Dragongate, Jae Church, and we did a fun 3-hour preview of this Sunday's coming up Kobe Pro Wrestling Festival on the 21st. It's a pretty wide-ranging conversation, actually, to be honest. We do cover and preview the card, but we do kind of, in our way, go where the conversation takes us. And as always, I'd like to thank Jay for stopping by on the program. A bit of a programming note. As you are getting this episode a little early, we are doing a little bit of a different schedule over the next few weeks. So as we say during the interview, Case and I will be back with y'all on the 21st, right after Kobe Pro Wrestling Festival, and we'll be doing our same day audio of the biggest show of Dragongate's year. So a little bit of a format change just though for the next few weeks. We'll be back to our standard schedule soon after, but let's stop stalling. Let's get to the fun episode. Jae Church joining Case and I. Have a good week, everyone, and get ready for Kobe Pro Wrestling Festival. Take care. Bye. Joining us at this time, the official English voice of Dragongate Japan Pro Wrestling, Jae Church. We are, as of time recording, 8 days away from Kobe Pro Wrestling Festival. We were talking right before I hit record that this year feels like the year it snuck up on all of us the most. Jay, how's it going? How does it feel now that we're 8 days out from the 25th anniversary show?
Yeah, definitely has come up out of kind of come up out of nowhere. I don't know, and it's later than last year too, so I don't know why, but it could also just be because like there hasn't really been a lot of TV over the last 6 weeks. Particularly June, it felt like the company went out of business for 3 or 4 weeks. But yeah, 8 days away. You guys excited?
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of had a realization when we recorded last week where we were going over the title matches, and I was like, wait a minute, this is a really good card. I don't feel like enough people are saying this is a really good card, but I'm into everything on this show.
Yeah, it's a pretty good card.
Yeah, I feel like if we look at this like through like different lenses, it kind of checks all the boxes for like, I know the attempt of doing a show without big outsiders. I feel like you're putting Ben and Yamato up front, and that does a lot to me, at least for waiting that appetite for outsiders. But then when you like look up and down the card, I feel like you have the 25th anniversary Gaora match. You have the Atomicos with a lot of the rookies, the class of 2022 guys in there, and I mean opening up with Kota Minoura versus Madoka Kakuta for an 8-match card for Dragongate with where they are and how the company is in 2024. It's very hard to like stack a card much if you're not bringing in outsiders. So I think that's I would put my I would put myself at like a 9 or a 10 going into it. I mean, I still have not seen Kyoto, and I know that Buyoden is this week, but I'm already ready to go for Kobe World.
Yeah, Kyoto was fine. It was a Kyoto show. You kind of know what you're going to get on that. Buyoden is something else entirely. So.
Jay, you were mentioning that there wasn't a lot of TV in June. I have an idea for Dragongate in which they start a YouTube account and have a young boy film with a single camera at ringside and then upload the 2 or 3 best matches from each house show onto YouTube to keep people engaged in the company when there's large gaps without TV. Certainly seems like it would be something that a lot of people would be interested in. Any thoughts on the YouTube situation?
Yeah, well, you should tag Music Man and send that over to him and see what he says.
Yeah, no, it's not that I have a giant Rolodex of people associated with Dragongate, but those that I do communicate with have heard me complain a few different times now.
Yeah, we've all complained except well, if you can't say anything nice about somebody, you shouldn't say it, particularly when the record button has been hit.
Totally get that. Yeah, it's and I feel like with how like the schedule has really changed over the last 24 months. I mean, you look at what we would consider the standard Dragongate calendar that was happening in 2022, and even though that time, I mean, we are still dealing with a lot of COVID situations. This year, like we've seen now, King of Gate kind of become a floating tournament, and everything just kind of lands that June. By the second week of June, the schedule just worked out that way, and without taping Okinawa anymore, it just like everything just kind of felt like it went to a stop in a lot of ways. But similarly, it kind of led us, and I know the timelines don't necessarily match up. It kind of worked out pretty great for Daya during that time period to be doing those tours.
What was that? Oh, yeah. No, I completely forgot about that. Yeah, they did like a Triangle Gate match that we're never going to see with Katsuo, that we're never going to see, and the Okinawa stuff I could give or take. Although it's kind of, I'm not going to say the word I'm thinking of, but it's something that Okinawa had a YouTube live show immediately after the Dragon Gate shows ended. But it is what it is. There's no budget to increase the network schedule or anything like that. So I'm gonna have to deal with being back in the dark ages until the switch flips for somebody.
Well, as we look at the Kobe World Show that's coming up on the 21st from Kobe World Kenan Hall, 8 matches, 4 title matches. I think we should probably start with the top match, Benkei versus Yamato. I've been really enthused with how Yamato, in his way, has wedged his way back into the Dreamgate picture by just deciding that what the company needs more is more Yamato. But we then also have Benkei coming up on his maiden defense of this reign. How do you kind of feel going into this match? A part of things going dark, we didn't necessarily see Benkei on the Outpost shows as Dreamgate champion. We got to see the 2 Korkins, and then by that time, before we knew it, we were back in Korkin, and we were going, hey, Benkei has changed kind of yet again. How do you feel like that this era of Benkei is rounding into form before he goes up against Mr. Dragongate in the biggest show of the year?
Yeah, he's turned into kind of a nice mix of the Benkei that was champion, 5 years ago now, that version, and then I guess the version of him that's confident with and happy with himself that he's become over the last 2 or 3 years. I don't know. I mean, what's the consensus like on the ground in terms of I know Yamato tends to not be the most popular pick for champion among foreign fans. I don't know, what's the energy on the ground like about that?
I think people are more into Ben than they are Yamato, and part of that is just one, Ben's popularity of the super rookie that he was when he debuted, and still the amount of Western eyeballs that were on Dragon Gate in 2016. Then it was the fact that a lot of people are connected to him because of 2019 World and Pac, and he felt like the biggest name to the English speaking audience at that point. But then also the people that hung on through 2019, watched through the pandemic, are watching now. And I speak for myself a little bit here, but it's like, oh my God, we've seen this guy grow up and become like a real person, because for years he was more of a machine than he was just a human, and then he became this I dare I say parody of a human, even though I really, really enjoyed that sort of stuff. And now this just feels like it's a mature wrestling champion. And although I think Yamato will win, I hold out hope for Ben. I think luckily both options are interesting, but I find Ben personally to be a way more interesting champion leaving World, just because, for him to, in 1 year beat Pac for the Dreamgate belt, and then 5 years later beat Yamato for the, to retain the Dreamgate belt. Those are 2 historically significant victories at World, and I feel like Ben is at the very least in the process of proving himself if he hasn't already.
Okay, which option do you think is a more compelling eventual opponent for Minoura?
It depends what they do with Minoura, because bald Minoura, the answer is probably Ben. We were talking last week about how Dragon Gate historically, they don't always do the obvious thing. I always say, there's option A and there's option B, and then Dragon Gate picks option 3. They just go completely off the board in a way you weren't expecting. It certainly feels like, given what we know about the August Korkin already, that Minoura could be turning heel. I would be intrigued by that, just as another hard reset on Minoura. But if it's brooding heel Minoura, the answer might be Yamato, just given what they've done already this year. If it's gold class versus gold class, or just a slight character tweak for Minoura, the answer is probably Ben.
Do you think So if Minoura leaves gold class, there's nobody left from gold class. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I had the same argument after Dead or Alive when Jay became the leader of Natural Vibes, where it was like, either keep KZ on top or make an entirely new unit led by Strong Machine Jay. And I would hope that if Minoura goes, that, Hulk and Junior and Minorita and Ben look around and go, maybe we shouldn't be gold class anymore. Maybe let's change this up, because now we're talking about, we're coming up on 2.5 years of gold class. And,
Sure.
the unit has been maybe more interesting than it's been good over its history. But if Minoura is not leading it, there's no point in having that branding around anymore. At least I don't think.
Yeah, I agree. I think the thing that kind of throws a wrench into that is Junior joining now. Because I think that if you were going to do that, it would make more sense for Junior to join after the rebrand. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I was surprised to see that. I thought, and we'll talk about the Dragongate match here in a little bit, but I was holding out hope that it was going to be Junior and Shingo at World, but Shingo's booked for the G1 that day, and then the Ricochet stuff came out. I was like, oh, maybe if they can afford Ricochet, maybe they do Ricochet versus Junior. I always expected Junior to be in a special singles match on this show, and the gold class thing really threw me for a loop, even if on the surface I'm into it because it gets him into a unit again.
Yeah, there's no budget for Shingo.
No.
There's no budget. There's no budget for Ricochet. Lekman got shit canned, so there's no money for guests anymore.
Well, we've talked about that a bunch just throughout the last 4 years on this show, of the importance of Lek in relation to all of Japanese wrestling, but especially Dragongate. I mean, is that felt like a pretty seismic shift for the industry as a whole? Am I correct in thinking that departure kind of screws with everybody, and the lack of money going around in Japan still?
I mean, it hurts Dragongate more than most because Black was sponsoring. They had stopped sponsoring All Japan some time ago, so it doesn't affect them that much. Stardom, New Japan obviously have Bushi Road money. Who else were they sponsoring? I don't think they were sponsoring. Like let's say the other companies that would potentially be put in peril, like let's say a company like Big Japan, I don't think they were sponsoring Big Japan at all. So it hurt Dragongate far more than it hurt everybody else. I mean, they're still, I don't know if they're staying on the schedule or not, but I know like there were supposed to be Buyuden shows throughout the rest of the year, and with the idea that they'd be Lek sponsored, and Lek would be helping promote these matches and all that. And, like, you can see by the one that's coming up this week, that's not happening. It's just there's just some Noah guys and some other lower level freelance guys. So no, it hurts a lot actually.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. That's certainly the vibe that I got. And last year, it wasn't like Yamato versus Hiromu was the greatest match of all time, but Hiromu, I think, was at the tail end of having cachet as an outsider, where it was like, oh, I'll check out this non-New Japan Hiromu match, and then we saw so many of them last year that I said, well, I think I'm good on this forever going forward. But it was a nice inclusion on the show, and obviously, even if the Buyuden shows haven't been exactly what I've dreamed of them to be, they've been worthwhile. So those possibly going away, and then the lack of budget on the outsiders now, that's a real bummer.
At least with Buyuden, I hope that we can still get one more MMA Minorita match. That is, I don't know what recesses of Pancrase we're going to have to go like pull Ryo Kawamura out of again. But I feel like that needs to happen. If we're going to keep on doing these without Sponge Guy money, that is the route, is just to have Minorita go shooter mode on a bunch of old strong style guys.
Like roided up Kurt Angle is the vision that I have for Minorita.
Yeah, put him in like the singlet and the headgear.
Yeah,
oh, absolutely.
Got to get a mouth guard. That's really the thing that's going to make the act, is Minorita with a mouth guard and him shooting the single leg takedown.
Yeah, Minoura used to wear a mouth guard, so it's interesting that Minorita doesn't. But...
Oh yeah,
no, Minorita's not on this card. Yeah, I think this was made before they knew if to come back or not, though. So.
Mike, can I interest you in Minorita versus our friend from last week, Josh Barnett? Do you think that'd be a good use of company time and resources and energy?
I think that there's another side of the Dragon system or the overall Luchares tree that's way too invested in and on that guy. Like he needs to go do a couple years.
Oh, what a shame, Jay. I'm sure the answer is no as we bounce around here. But are you caught up on your GLEAT Tokyo Dome City Hall viewing?
I saw some of it, not all of it. I don't know. That doesn't feel like things are going great over there.
I would co-sign that opinion. It's
well, as of today, Nakajima's not getting his quadruple crown wishes. So I mean, it's all going up awful over there.
Yeah, if you're booking Ibushi and Katsuhiko on the same show, then you're in a situation.
Is the rep? Oh, go ahead.
And you've got the money mark getting in the ring and getting exploded and all that. That's never a good sign. Unless you can go to the NFL draft the next day in a neck brace, you probably shouldn't have the money guy in the ring getting exploded.
Is the rep on Nakajima just that bad that no one wants to deal with him?
Yeah, no one wants to deal with him. I don't. What are the stories that are out? What's out there about him?
Simon Inoki basically trying to sleeper sell him into NXT and using All Japan as the platform.
No, that's not what. So again, this is just what I heard. So grain of salt on this. So he left Noah over money problems, like everybody who leaves. I think Jake Lee left Noah over money problems today. And basically he was 100% convinced that New Japan would sign him. It was just a matter of waiting for the timing. So he went to All Japan and said, I'll give you 1 year, but as soon as New Japan comes calling, I'm going to leave. But they said yes, and they gave him more money than Miyahara, and then the stuff with Simon Inoki and all that happened, and it was a huge problem. And the president, the All Japan boss, had all of those, various issues that caused him to go crazy for a little while. Lost his wife during childbirth. Was that what happened? I know his wife passed away. I don't know if it was during childbirth or if it was with the child very young, and that kind of led him to be mentally unstable for a while. So he was easily, let's say, misled or led astray by Simon and all that. The NXT thing was just Simon trying to get an NXT foothold. It had nothing to do with Katsuhiko. And then once President got his mind right, nobody wanted Katsuhiko around. And he's uncooperative, he's unprofessional. He just did a UWF match and finished with a Northern Lights bomb. Shows how interested in playing along he is. Yeah, no one wants that. He's got no place to go.
Yeah, it's at a point now where it was always a situation over there where I'm like, okay, you took the husk of Wrestle One, you have Kiyoshi Tamura in there, and your guys obsessed with UWF, and then you're wedging in Shima and his troop in here. It just felt like there's never been coherence with that company, and now it's even more on display.
Well, I think we've talked about this before, though, is that they wanted to do UW. That guy is Suzuki. He's he was a UWF fan growing up, so he wanted to do UWF, but UWF doesn't draw, and the Strong Heart guys were the only ones that were any sort of attraction for them during the early days. So because of that, he had to give in, and give all of that, all that power over to those guys. And, it is what it is over there. I think it was maybe a year ago, there was a lot of conversation about AEW, about, like promotional identity.
Yes.
And kind of the main takeaway was, you had a lot of AEW fans that became fans of AEW because it was offering, a certain style, a certain alternative, and they were invested. They were invested in that. They were behind it, and when that changed, it became something that wasn't for them anymore. And I think with GLEAT, it became the same thing. They were doing well in establishing, like they had Bulk Orchestra, who were pretty, popular as kind of like a weird sort of comedy, but sort of heel group, whatever they were. But the characters were all pretty popular. But then, and I don't mean this as a knock. This is just the vibe I get is that once Ishida showed up is when kind of the vibe of the promotion started to change. And I think around the time the other guys showed up last year is when, the people that had been on board with GLEAT from the beginning kind of were just like, what is this? And once you lose trust with your fans, it's very, very hard to get it back. I mean, I don't know what the vibe about AEW is a year later on that. Seems more people are more positive about it than they were a year ago this time. But
it's better, but it's not where it once was, and it'll never get back to where it once was.
It's forever litigating All Out 2022.
Gotcha.
Like they've not, they are fully in Groundhog's Day.
I see. Well, that's a different thing than what's going on over here, and it is what it is on those guys. I think that I don't know. This isn't a GLEAT podcast, so they've only got 5 shows scheduled between now and the end of the year.
And an untelevised Cork and Hall show was one of them. And then the big Osaka building. I'm fascinated by this. I can't stop thinking about the untelevised Cork and Hall show.
Well, the Cork and Hall is untelevised. I think we've talked about this multiple times, in that they've set the value of their shows at free.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Because they've been, and you can't put that back in the box. So, if you set the value of your shows at a certain level, if you set the value of your shows at 0, and your shows haven't been particularly good for almost a year now, and that's not me saying that. I mean, I think that that's been kind of the common consensus, is that they haven't really been doing very good shows for well over a year now. I think there's people that are like, well, if it's on YouTube for free, I'll watch it, but I'm not paying a ticket price. I'm not going out on a weekday night to go see this show that's not going to end until after 10 p.m. because they do these marathon shows. I don't need to see it, is kind of I think where they're at right now, and trying to put the genie back in the bottle and have these, untelevised, untaped, house show type things. And, if it works for them, more power to them. But, they're losing money, and they don't have a good way to monetize what they're doing. So, what's the main event on that? Tamura versus who?
I think it's Tamura versus Kawakami.
Oh, didn't he get fired?
But he's still wrestling from it. He just changed his name to Ryuichi Fire Kawakami.
Oh, God.
It's a mess.
I'm baffled by it. But Mike, do you want to get back on this Dreamgate match real quick? Because I'd like to know where you stand. On the finish. I don't know your thoughts. We haven't really talked about it.
Yeah, I'm of a couple minds. It always feels like, at least in this era of Dragon Gate, that they have had the if break glass, use Yamato kind of methodology, and it's something that you put all the time and credit into Yamato becoming that kind of figure that you're able to pull up that ace when you need it. And this does not feel like that. It's that kind of thing, even though Yamato, I have thoroughly enjoyed the idea that him and Paradox is like, we should not be happening right now, But guess what, guys? In my year that I took a step back, I was evaluating, and I realized the one thing that the company needs is more Yamato. I find that, and the storyline of Minoura, I've always been more interested in Yamato when he's at least playing a little bit more tweener than pure babyface, and we're getting that. But I feel like for Ben right now, especially with him now kind of rounding into form in this manner where he's taken what he needed to from Soul Shouter and he took what he needed to from Chicky Sensei to have now, I guess, perfect Benkei in its own form. It kind of feels like that this is the time where you could really see where that goes for him. I know that you're looking at Yokohama coming up for a Dangerous Gate afterwards, so you're already going to have to try to figure out where that defense would be, and maybe that would be easier to figure out with Yamato holding the belt versus Benkei. But I'm still, I feel like that this Benkei run could end up being his, not necessarily like the run, because he got a good run in 2019. I mean, he got several defenses, he got a Yamato defense, so I felt like he was in a pretty okay place, at least on paper, coming out of it. Of course, reality was completely different. I just kind of like, I'm on a coin flip, and the side that's coming down is the side that kind of wants to see where Benkei can go. And I think that's where I am right now, is at 51% Benkei, 49% Yamato.
Well, Mike, I think historically you and I err on the side of youth, even if it's a more risky endeavor. And Jay, that leads to one of the questions we had come up in our Discord, which is the Reiwa generation. We're 15 months after the Dead or Alive show closing promo last year. They've obviously turned it into an angle with Yamato and his dissatisfaction with the newest generation of wrestlers. But from your perspective, how do you think, I'll use the term project, how do you think the Reiwa project has gone? Because they were so in your face and bold about it over the last year, but it seems like they, to some degree, have maybe peeled back from charging full steam ahead with just the 6 new young guys. And, we see that because Yamato's in the main event this year.
Well, I mean, I think you think you have to. I mean, this isn't. I agree with Yamato that there wasn't enough Yamato in Dragon Gate last year. That was actually one of my main complaints about 2023 was not just him, but kind of the treatment of the veterans in general and how they weren't involved in anything. Yamato, Dragon Kid, M3K was a thing, but M3K wasn't. I don't know. I wouldn't say that was the veterans being involved at the front lines or anything like that. So guys like Susumu and Kanda. So I think you need to take that first year, 15 months to establish the guys and kind of help people get to know them. And, because the young guys are the people that young fans are going to latch on to. If you're a new fan, you're going to latch on, not 100%, but the majority of the time, a new fan is going to latch on to somebody new. And they're less likely to pick up on a veteran guy. But at the same time, you need to take the time for that. You need to let people, pick their favorites, pick their new favorites. But, that alienates old fans. So you do need to do a dial back, a step back, as long as the guys are capable of doing it. If this was a situation where, Yamato was, if this was like, and sorry, New Japan fans, but this is like if you had to go back to, if they had to go back to Tanahashi, for example, in 2024, that's different from going back to someone like Yamato, who can still go at a high level. He's not broken. If it was like they had to go back to Mochizuki, for example. Mochi's great, and he can still be, great on a given night, but you see the schedule that he's dialed back his schedule quite a bit. If they had to go back to him, it would be alarming. Like when they had to go back to him in 2018, 2019, it was a little alarming that they had to go back to him. But, as long as the old guys are able to go, I think stepping back and letting them come back around, because that brings old fans back. And that also gives comfort to old fans in the sense that they're not going to be left behind and the company hasn't changed completely overnight and your old favorites are suddenly irrelevant. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. We had I want to be sure to credit, it was Angry216, who I don't know if you know, but he's been a loyal
Andrew.
listener of us since the beginning, and he's followed Dragongate for years now. But he had a question in the Discord that I'll throw at you now since it's kind of come up, and I'm very intrigued by this too. Do you see similarities, or I guess what are the similarities and differences between the Dragongate fan base now and the Dragongate fan base 10 years ago?
With fan base as a whole, local fan, domestic fan base, Western fan base,
Domestic fan base on the whole.
Domestic. I mean, it's always kind of been this way in that you have, I don't know, I would say 3 or 4 years where you kind of see the same faces at the venue every time you go to Cork, and you see the same faces in the same seats. In the hallway you have the same the same groups of fans congregating and discussing, going around, trading merchandise or handing out snacks or handing out at the time handing out streamers. And then once you hit that 3 or 4 year mark, you start seeing kind of the churn starts, and the faces in the seats, some familiar faces, familiar voices stop showing up, and they get replaced by new people. And COVID obviously it expedited that pretty considerably, in that a lot of the old faces, the old voices never came back, and they were replaced by new faces, but it wasn't one to one. It wasn't for every one person that left we got a new fan. It was more for every 3 or 4 fans that stopped coming, there was a new fan, and that you see that and how many people are in the building. But the people that are here, it's still the same. You've got the younger female audience that pick up on Aminora or pick up on Hyo, kids that would have been into Dragon Kid 5-10 years ago. They're the ones that are getting into Daya now. And it's still, the one thing that you don't see as much anymore, one thing that you saw pre-pandemic, you would get kind of the female fans that got into it in their 20s, and they were now into marriage and into parenthood, and they were bringing the kids and bringing the entire family. You don't see as much of that. You do see families, but it's not long-term fans bringing families.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And we talked at length during the pandemic about how the behaviors of the fan bases have changed, and how they cheer and how they support. And there's still been a lot of growing pains. Growing pains might be a strong word on that, but there's still been kind of like that period of adjustment where what we associated with a pro wrestling crowd for the last, pre everything that it was pre-2019, there's still been period of adjustment on that. So when you watch, let's say, a crowd from a show in 2009 or 2012, people that were around at that time are going to say, wow, the crowds were so hot back then, it was so different, everything must have been so much better. And that's not necessarily the case. Yeah, the environment was probably better back then, but pandemic changes the world, so we have to adjust with it.
For sure. We don't need to relitigate all of the business issues in Japan as a whole over the last 4 years, but I'm curious now, in 2024, are there any cities or any markets as a whole that Dragongate goes to where it feels good? Maybe it's not pre-pandemic level, but there's like, oh, okay, Nagoya is healthy. This feels nice.
Yeah, things are rough all over for everybody. It's not a Dragongate thing. I don't know. Short of the Saito brothers' hometown for all Japan, I don't know if there's like a legitimately hot, full, super into the show, like, super into the like legitimate hot market for anybody. That city in Sendai for the Saito brothers, it's the same hometown as Ryu Fuda, so he's got some work to do. But
that sucks for Fuda.
yeah, from the same hometown as probably legitimately the biggest mainstream draws in Japanese pro wrestling right now. Aside from their hometown, I don't know if any place is at that level for anybody right now. I mean, other fans of other promotions can correct me if I'm wrong on that. I know All Japan has done some great crowds, very enthusiastic crowds all over the place, not just in Sendai. So I'll defer to New Japan or to All Japan fans on that. But kind of the vibe is it's rough all over for everybody.
Yeah, that's at least in a kind of this question kind of work here. We talking about how business has been kind of down for everyone. One of the big things, at least since the last time I feel like you came on, like over the last few months, we saw United Japan kind of pan out and be completely deflated. Case has been is used to me bemoaning what I feel like is just like a boondoggle here, but like it seems like that, and we have a question about this, where Dragongate, this was unique, that whereas in the past with the All Together and a lot of the government run organizations, because Dragongate is based in Kansai, not always traditionally involved here. Was Dragongate, the listener asked, is Dragongate involved in this group from the start, or were they brought in at a later point, considering how lackluster, their words, not mine, Case, for the numbers were for 2 shows they've run? Do you think that there's even a future for this kind of collaboration, or is it going to be really seen as kind of like, oh, this was like a Kadani boondoggle at this point?
Well, what I heard about that for the first show, the show in May, was that
right, the one in Budokan.
Yeah, that was supposed to be like a crossover show, either New Japan and Stardom or just the Stardom show. But they got cold feet on doing it, so they decided to do the All Together thing again. I don't know if that's true or not. But nobody wants it here, and I don't know if this has been brought up about that first show, but that was the last day of Golden Week. Everybody had to be back to work the next day, and all of the promotions that were on that show had a major show over the course of Golden Week. Dead or Alive was the day before. New Japan had Dontaku that weekend.
Yeah, Dontaku was that weekend. Yeah.
DDT had a big show in Korakuen the day before. Noah had their big show the day before. Like, dude, blueberries are 600 yen. Like, I don't got, like, if I'm a fan of a promotion, I'm going to go to the promotion show. Like, I'm not going to go to, what was it, Nippon Budokan? Tokyo Budokan? Whichever Budokan it was. I'm not.
Oh, it was Nippon. It was the big one.
Yeah, like, I'm not going to spend for a huge ticket to see my favorite promotion, to see guys maybe in one match or 2 matches, when I have to be at work the next day. If I'm from outside of Tokyo, like, no way, I'm leaving. I'm on the Shinkansen. I'm going home the day before. I'm beating the rush. I'm not sticking around to watch this. Like, I'm going, if I'm a Noah fan, I'm going to the Noah show on the 4th, and then I'm home on the 5th. If I'm a Dragongate fan, I went to Nagoya and I'm on my way back home already. Like, I don't think that the date and the time and the fact that the proximity to major shows for all the other promotions can be discounted. That being said, nobody wants it. Like, it's just a minus because, the crossover thing just doesn't appeal, because there's the star power across everywhere is so low right now that you can't get energized for it. It's not even, when was the last one? The one previous to this was 2011, right?
Yeah.
So that was what, Tanahashi was still in his heyday, and who, you had star power in other promotions that hadn't been that hadn't shared a ring with each other in a long time. Here there's been crossover pretty consistently, particularly between New Japan and Noah Dragongate. There's been a large amount of crossover over the last, since the pandemic started. So it's not a novelty. Yeah, I mean, nobody wants it. So there's no. To go all the way back to answer the first question, Dragongate was involved because the original idea for this was just to have an organization that could act as it's Mabuguchi in Japanese, but just kind of as like the, I don't know,
like lobbying group, right? Like this was
the entry point, that so there could be a centralized location to receive any information or anything. If there's a pandemic again, and there needs to be a place to discuss policy, a place to discuss restrictions, a place to discuss that sort of thing. A centralized place that could communicate with the government and then disseminate the information out to all the promotions, instead of all the promotions having to go and chase the information down. Like, that was the original intent of this, not, and the crossover shows were just kind of a panic thing. Try and fill a building that had already been filled, well, two buildings that had already been booked, but there wasn't anything to put in them. And I don't think, I asked somebody, I was like, gee, is there going to be another one? And they're like, no, there's not going to be another one. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I wouldn't, if there is another one, I don't expect it to do any better than the two that have happened so far. The second one was a disaster too, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, that was the one where, like, it always kind of came off to me, one, like, to have like the government touch point, as you were saying, but two, as a clearinghouse for companies that book up, because you have to do like these reservations, like, at least from my understanding, always like a long time in advance. So it's like, oh, we ended up renting the Budokan for this date 3 years ago. We don't have anything that's going to fill it. What do we do? And
yeah.
Until like there is like some like realism, or like they move to like not such a delayed schedule with like venue rental, for lack of better terms, or people aren't renting these venues and we're paying whatever rate they were paying in COVID. Like, as soon as that all like kind of finally equalizes, I feel like that there won't necessarily be a use for like these or altogether shows as a effort. Yeah. Whereas United Japan, as you said, Jay, like, it does seem like that at its core does serve that purpose. It's just then it was like, well, I guess we now have this group here. How about we run a group show because we have this Budokan date that we had to book 3 years ago.
Yeah, and I think who was it? Was it Miyahara that didn't want to do the show, and it was Anzai that ends up doing the show, or was it vice versa?
It was one of there was that, and there was the whole situation then, like with the shows that they did in Hokkaido, were like right in the middle of like, I know Dragongate had Okinawa that weekend, and because of how the Okinawa trips are, like, you're not going to take people away from that trip when fans want to go to dinner with them. But like, it just kind of seems like it's just always going to be like a situation where too many cooks, and if your big idea for, oh, we have this big venue that we booked that we don't know have anything for, if it's ever going to be a collaboration show, I feel like that we have learned now thoroughly through United Japan that just does not draw anymore. I mean, it's not seeing like All Japan versus New Japan in the 80s. It's not like that kind of thing anymore.
Yeah, like, I would, if they come back and do it again, I don't know. I don't even know. Like, what's the vibe on how these other promotions are doing in creating star power?
All Japan feels like the real winner.
They are.
I personally am enjoying Noah more right now than I have in years, but I wouldn't say, outside of just simply not fucking up Kiyomiya, they've made anybody. And
did he win today?
Say that again.
Did he win today?
He did win today.
Oh.
Yeah, I was surprised as well. In New Japan, I don't know. I really like Tsuji, and I personally am not hooked on any of the other new guys, but that might be a me problem. If you ask somebody else, they might be way more into New Japan than I am right now.
How do
No,
you?
Umino finally took the step forward, but the other two guys are nowhere close. It's Suji, then a step behind Umino, and then the field.
What do you think? How do you think Jake Lee's going to do over there?
Terrible. I mean, good lord. I mean, I'm glad he's
He
not.
finally
I
got
don't
his-
have to watch him in Noah. That's awesome.
He finally got his G1 he's been begging for years.
God, he could. I wish he would just go to America, so I really don't have to pay attention to him.
What do you think? How do you think Miyahara would do if he went there?
To New Japan?
Yeah,
I think he'd do great.
he's older. He's not that old, but he's older.
Isn't he Shingo's age or thereabout?
Yeah, but Shingo's old.
I just entered my late 30s, so hearing Shingo is old, it really sends a shiver down my spine.
Yeah, Shingo's in his 40s, man. Who's Miyahara?
I mean, I think Miyahara would do great. I wish, if he was ever going to jump, I would have wished it was, 2017, 2018, when I think they could have used somebody like that, and the depth in that company was a little bit deeper. But if he walked into New Japan right now, he's a top 5 worker, maybe a top 3 worker.
Yeah, he's only 35. He's just been wrestling forever. That's all.
Jesus, almost 20 years.
2008. So, he debuted. He's 19. Yeah. And he's been on top in All Japan he's on top in All Japan for a decade. So it's a TV age thing, right? Where it's like,
Oh yeah, for sure. Like familiarity with all that.
Well, like when Randy Orton was 33 years old, but had been on TV for 15 years or whatever. So
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, how do you think Dragongate is doing? This is the Dragongate podcast. There. How do you?
Yeah. I love the Korkin. I thought that was really kind of rounding into form. From what it looks like attendance-wise, I feel like it's doing as well as it really can be at this point, considering everything. Like, I mean, Yoshioka being out hurts, especially considering what kind of star he became in 2022. But like, I don't know necessarily like what else they could be doing at this point. Really, I mean, other than this is a company that has always kind of pushed forward, and then for this, I mean, you look at how the title situation is, and other than really, I would say Hulk and the Triangle Gate, I mean, you're looking at such a younger promotion than where it was, I feel like, this time 2 years ago, at least as it relates to the title situation. I not Hug too, but I mean, like, it does really feel like at the very least that going for the Reiwa 6, as we were talking about 15 months ago, it's not like scaring people off. It seems like that, especially as it pertains to like people like Kakuta and Daya. It's worked out for them in the long run.
Okay?
Oh, go ahead, Jay.
So here's a question. No, finish your thought, then I'll ask my question.
I was just gonna say, I think, development-wise, I mean, Shun to me is the most compelling guy in wrestling, and I continue to have a hard time with him not being Dreamgate champion, because I think everything in this company runs through Shun, and I just think, oh man, I would want my world champion to be that guy. I think they've done a good job with Ben. I think they did a good job with Yoshioka. I'm waiting for the Strong Machine J next step, and I feel like if Jay could really hit on something, it would just be another weapon that they have, and it would make everything feel a little bit better and a little bit healthier. But I don't know what that is for him, and I don't know if he's peaked as a wrestler, but he's the guy that I keep on waiting of, like, all right, when is he going to have his thing that takes him from, respected to popular? And I don't know if he's got that in him.
So is Natural Vibe Captain not working for you?
No, because it's KZ's. It's Natural Vibes. It's like, Flamita's made a bigger impression since Dead or Alive than Strong Machine J has.
Flamita So good.
What I mean, my God, what a nice story that is.
You know, I got to admit, so I was never big on Flamita. You know, I mean, he came in, 2013. He
Yep.
came in 2013. We had 5 years of Pac. We were still in the middle of Ricochet and Uha, and Rich Swann had been in there, and like it was just another. To me, it was just another foreigner, another flippy foreigner that came in. I never really thought that. And he was typically, he would come in and have his Brave Gate challenge, and then go back to Mexico, and he'd come back in 6 months, and you do it over again. I was never that big on him, and I don't know any way to say this in a way that isn't kind of disrespectful to everybody that's here now, but like, when he was in the ring with Shingo, Tozawa, Ricochet, those guys, I mean, he was just another guy with them, but he is so much better than everybody else that's here. That's hyperbole. He's not better than everybody here, but he popped off the screen so much more than he did last time he was here. Everything. He's a step faster than everybody. Everything hits with such precision. Everything he does is perfect. Even the way he, when a guy drops down and you jump over the guy to hit when you're doing rope work.
Mm-hmm.
Even the way he does that is just 2 steps faster than everybody else. Like it's been a big energy boost to the shows having him around.
He's wrestling like he really wants to be there, which I would argue post millennials, it was always like I like Flamita. It was nice to see him, but it was him at that point going through the motions. I think anything post Bravegate was just Flamita being Flamita, but now it's almost like you don't know what you had until it's gone. And after bouncing around the world for the few years that he did, he comes home essentially, and he's wrestling like somebody that really wants to come back whenever he eventually goes again.
Yeah, and I hope this isn't it.
Yeah,
I'd be devastated.
I know, the timing and the funding worked out because the Hong Kong promoter flew him the majority of the way over here, so it worked out that it was a cheap flight to get him into Japan. So hopefully this isn't the last time we see him for 5 years again or whatever it was.
I want him in King of Gate. I want him against Shun. I think their interactions every time they've touched have been unbelievable.
God, yeah, we need to. I said to Shun, I was like, we need to see you in a singles match, and even Shun was like, no, he's too good. But we need to. That is a singles match that needs to happen. Sometimes, I mean, we need to see him and Monte in a singles match. We need to see him. There's a lot of guys he can be in.
Minorito would be a really interesting one.
Yeah, he would.
Yeah.
While we're waiting for Gianni to come back and have the Tokyo Dome main event with Minorita, we can have the warm up with Flamita first. That could be the match. It could be Flamita versus Minorita, and Flamita beats him, and he's like, and that's it's Ita versus Ita. Whoever loses has to drop the suffix from their name.
It's something with Flamita that I kind of feel like, just because that is a guy who has been through it outside of Dragongate, especially like in Mexico, that like getting him like back and inspired, and it kind of being like a fortuitous thing where it all worked out with Hong Kong promoter. It just really reminded me like, wow, this guy has, for one, being only 29 years old is sickening. And just like redefining himself, like, I was never super big on the Demonic Flamita run, other than I thought that Demonic Flamita was a funny turn of phrase. But I feel like going through all that and like the level of like maturation that comes that he has had to kind of be forced to go through. I mean, especially considering like how AAA and Lucha Underground went specifically for him, and just like having him back home has been such a breath of fresh air. And then like him even teaming with KZ in this Twingate match. There's a part of me that's going like, can we just as much as I love a Not Hug and Naruki Doi this year, Mr. Saito has really like put like the double underline towards your point of like don't cast off the old generation just yet. I come into this Twingate match like not to completely get us back on rails completely, but like it seems like that they've kind of formulated this match in a manner that like we have that square of Shun, Monte, Jason, and Jack, but then you also have like this much deeper layer of two of the best tag team workers in the company all time, and Doi and Dragon Kid finally teaming, being Twingate champions, and then KZ and Flamita just being like out of nowhere one of these really fun tag teams. It's the match on the show I am most looking forward to by far.
I don't think there's anybody watching that's going to watch the show that isn't the case. That isn't the match they're looking forward to the most.
I guess my big question is, we haven't seen it yet. Is it going to be 3 falls or a single fall match?
They're traditionally elimination. I mean, I haven't, and I'll get there and I'll ask, and they'll say, I don't know, let me go ask, and then they won't come back to me, and I'll have to wait until the ring entrance, like the introductions. But I would assume it's going to be elimination because they always are.
Good.
So with that, we're going to get there, and it's going to be 1 fall, and it's going to be like a puck finish.
It's going to be Kai and Ishin coming out and ruining the match.
Yeah, now that I've said it, yeah, it'll be Kun hitting KZ in the head with the cookie tray, and that'll be it should be elimination. They've always been elimination, right?
I think so.
I feel like
I'm trying to think
been
if 2008 was, but I think 2008 was elimination too.
Yeah, there's been a couple, but mostly on Kobe World they have been elimination. I remember a couple Final Gate, maybe it was Triangle Gate matches that were 1 fall to a finish.
Yeah, well, in Korakuen, I told that it was going to be an elimination match, so hopefully it's an elimination match.
Jay, in Japan, because I think this really came into fruition with the Twin Gate match 2 years ago with Monte and Shun and Jack and Jason, where I did a whole big write-up and a whole big preview on just historically how good the Twin Gate matches have been at World, with, you know, some of the Shingo and Yamato matches in the latter part of the 2000s, and then World 2011 with Shingo and not Shingo, but Shima and Ricochet versus Dragon and Pac, which I think is one of the best matches in company history. And then 2013 with Doi and Ricochet, and 2014 with Shingo and Tozawa and the Millennials. And, you know, just all throughout history, the Twin Gate match is kind of the thing that people have gravitated towards, at least that listen to us and that read the reviews and everything like that. Is there any sort of reverence in Japan for the history of the Twin Gate match at World? Because it feels like, especially post 2022, that's really a thing that matters to our bubble.
Well, see, okay, so it's interesting, and I'm gonna answer your question with a complete non-answer. But,
Got it.
So I think last year, and maybe even maybe going back to Shun's first reign as champion, I think that there was a lot of people that were down on the. Sorry, you asked about the Twin Gate, so I'm going to talk about the Dream Gate. Down kind of on the Dream Gate title matches, and I think it particularly once Yoshioka became champion. I think there were a lot of people that were saying, well, you know, Yoshioka's, you know, Dream Gate matches aren't hitting the way they need to be. You know, the Kikta Yoshioka match from last year, I think people were really down on, if I'm not mistaken.
I know I was.
Yeah, and I think a lot. I don't think, particularly, you know, Yoshioka's reign. Kikta, I was really high on Kikta's reign personally. I thought his reign was great, but it was, you know, traditionally, I don't think the Dream Gate match has needed to be the match that carries the show, because you had the Twin Gate match at World. The Twin Gate match was the guaranteed Dragongate-esque match of the night. You know, that was going to be, you watch Dragongate for a certain thing, and you would get that when you watched the Twin Gate match. If it wasn't the Twin Gate match, it was the Triangle Gate match. So by the time you got to the Dream Gate match, you got your money's worth on what you come to Dragongate for. And the Dreamgate match was just, kind of was what it needed, the main championship, the big fight feel. It could be a different style of match and people would be high on it because the undercards were already delivering what you came to Dragon Gate for. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But because we weren't getting that, aside from the Kung Fu Masters versus Shin and Monte match, I don't think that there's been a Twin Gate match or Triangle Gate match that has delivered to the Dragon Gate big match expectation in a few years now. There's been good matches, but there haven't been like, that was a match. That's what I watched Dragon Gate for. I need a cigarette. I'll come back and watch and then I'll come back and watch the Dream Gate match. I think the matches have been good, but not that good. So you're still sitting there and waiting. Okay, well now I need to be blown away by these Dream Gate Championship matches. And I realize that's kind of backhand praise to all the Dream Gate Championship matches that have happened before, but to semi-answer your question, we need the Twin Gate matches to be that good again. Because that's the marquee style. Like, it's not that it's a my thought ends there. Sorry, Mato.
No, that makes sense. I started to, as you were saying that, kind of go through the list of the Twin Gate matches that I've enjoyed the most over the last few years, and it's the antithesis of like a normal Twin Gate match, because I think the best one of last year, I know it's the best one of last year because it's one of my favorite matches worldwide of the entire year, was the Kanda Susumu Kano Kondo match in Korakuen, which I think is the best Kondo performance ever and one of my favorite Twin Gate matches ever. But that was on a big show. It was in Korakuen, so it main evented. And also, it wasn't what you think of when you think of a Twin Gate match, but it was still, I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, that was a match where you were getting carried. You were carried on the, Kanda and Susumu are the hometown guys. The championships are on outside guys. These are our old favorites. We want to see them turn back the clock and do it again. That was a match that was carried by emotion, not a match that was Dragon Gate-esque, so to speak.
Very much so. Even though Kano, I'm trying to think of another outsider that so seamlessly fit in, and I wish to this day that Kano could spend some more time in Dragon Gate, because I thought he was just a natural fit there, as was Kiyomiya, as it turns out, which I did not see coming.
Yeah, it was fine. It was fine. Wasn't the biggest fan of that, but I don't know. Let me look at Twin Gate Championship matches and see what my favorite match from last year was.
Mine was the Raid to Perhouse finals. It was something
That's not
where
a Twin Gate title. That's not a Twin Gate title match.
Yeah, that's true.
I like the Courage versus M3K a lot.
Yeah, that was strong. That was strong. I like the Shimizu KZ run. Their match against the Mochizukis, that was awesome, but it was at Memorial Gate, so nobody saw it.
Yeah.
KZ,
that was KZ and Shimizu had a really good reign.
Yeah, I like them. That's I say all the time on here. I think Shimizu historically is like the most underrated tag team wrestler of all time, because you think about all the different partners he's had, and every run he's had has been good. And that KZ one I thought was really underrated. And again, it's a shame because the temple match of that run was the Memorial Gate match, and not a lot of English speakers going out of their way to watch Memorial Gate, even with a match like that.
They had a good match with Ikuta and Yoshioka too, the one at Champion Gate.
Yeah,
look at I don't think they had a bad match. I don't think they had a bad match in the well. Even the Sendai, Yamato and Takashi,
that's fine.
The title switch where they lost to Kongo was also really good.
Absolutely.
And the finish was shocking, because I don't think anybody expected there to be a title switch on a Buyuden show. But yeah, this match that we've got here, like if this match isn't the best match of the night, then something bad happened. It ends up being a one fall finish, and it's Shun hitting somebody with a cookie tray. That's the only way this match could be bad.
Yeah, for as much as I love Dragon Kid and Doi, and I've made the argument that I kind of think over the last 18 months or so, we've witnessed the best version of Doi maybe ever between Dragon Gate and All Japan. But as much as I've loved their reign, I hope it's, obviously an elimination match, and I'm really hoping it comes down to Shun and Jason and Jack and Monte, just to do like Mike was saying, the opposite teams of where they're at in 2022. I would like that match to headline Corkin at some point, but I'll take a sort of hybrid rematch at World. I think that'd be a great way to end the match. And I advocated for this last week. I know historically Twin Gate runs are not very long. They're not very dominant. But if you're not going to have Shun with the Dream Gate belt, I think a very long reign of him and Jason is the right move.
Yeah, as an absolutely insufferable, loudmouth, obnoxious chant. Yeah, and you can run all of these matches back in. Well, Fumita's not going to be here, but you can run all of these matches back individually. So
yes.
if Shun and Jason win, you can always run back Kame and Monte or Kame and Kyo or somebody else in different constellations when it comes out. So Monte's going to be in this Noah thing. He's going to be in the N1, so he's not going to be around for August or however long this is running. So that's also something to think about now.
Yeah, that's true. That feels like it takes out a real possibility. It's not going to be KZ Flamita, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be Big Hug, because it'd be weird with Danger Skate being where it is this year. In terms of on the calendar, it'd be weird to not have him available for that.
You only need. Well, Noah have a show on that day. I mean, if you only need him to be around. I mean, let's see what Noah's schedule looks like. I think you really only need him to be around on the 28th in Kobe, on the 1st on the 1st in Korakuen, if you're going to do a title match. I don't think you need him to be around for anything else. And then obviously the title match. So let's see. Noah, so the league starts on the 4th, so he's free. He'd be free on the 8th and the 1st. And there's no show on the 16th, and the shows on the 12th and the 17th are in Kanto. So yeah, no, he can easily do an angle to set up the match, and then do Yokohama. So that's not a problem.
Interesting. Okay, good to know. I think we talked about this in May, because he would have already turned by that point. But Jason as a heel is so seemingly effortless and so good. And the pairing with Shun, for as much as I love the work Ishin's doing, and Kai I find to be entertaining, but I'm so glad it's Jason and Shun here, because this feels like a big time, for lack of a better term, heavyweight, meaning I guess more so importance than actual weight. But that pairing has done wonders in the build up to this match. I really, really like the work Jason's doing right now.
Yeah, he's kind of corny on social media. Quoting, like,
I look at it as delightfully corny, but yes, corny.
Yeah, no, but corny in a good way. Yeah, 100%. Like, he turns heel and starts quoting like new metal and emo song lyrics. Like that's perfect. Because if I turned heel, I would be quoting goth songs all day. So yeah, it's been really good. And Jason had been kind of pigeonholed into a certain role during his time. We kind of saw it during his Brave Gate run, and that he won the Brave Gate and he had okay matches, but it didn't set the world on fire. It really didn't. There wasn't a whole lot that, let's say, separated that reign from anything else. But the characters breathed a lot of new life into him, and we've said it a million times how good he is. So if this gets people to pay attention, I hope people pay attention to him because of this. He's definitely more visually striking than he was. He pops off the screen with the entrance gear and the red contact and the face paint. It's like there is that certain segment of, let's say, social media that needs to see an image like that of someone that just fucking looks cool, looks like a video game character, to get them to say, oh wow, I want to check this, who is this guy, I want to check this out. And like, he's, dancing Jason Lee wasn't the picture, the dancing picture with his tongue out that UT had as his lock screen on his phone. That one, yeah, you could get some girls will come because of that. But this one, you'll get, the heel Jason, definitely more people are showing up for this. So it's been a big win.
I just think, like, the way that, like, as you said, like, he's changed up his look. The one thing with the Bravegate, I feel like we could say with hindsight, he was already well out of that weight class by that time, and it just kind of felt like it was good for like a singles match, like getting like to that mountaintop. But now we've really seen since then he actually has a better role than just being kind of pigeonholed, as you said. And the Mie knee is great. I love that finish.
Yeah. The Horobi.
Yeah, the slingshot knee that he's doing.
Yeah.
Or the ripcord.
Yeah, the Bravegate is the weight limits on the Bravegate are more of a state of mind than an official rule these days. But,
it's not about weight limits; it's about no limits, Jay.
I said to Hyo that I was like, you should abolish the weight limit on this. Like, if you're gonna have a reign that's about redefining what the championship is about and carving a new legacy for it, like, you should be the person. The people that created the champ. We can't talk about the people that created the title anymore. We can't talk about that. They're on the shit list, and they're going to be on the shit list for the foreseeable future. We can't. So, and I don't say to do it to be disrespectful to the legacy of it, but I think this would be the perfect time to say, what does bravery or courage have to do with being 82 kilos? And, and it's weird because I've said that to a couple people now, and they're just, well, how do you separate it from the Dreamgate if there's no weight limit? And I don't know. What do you guys think about that statement? I was flabbergasted by that.
Yeah, I guess, like, with this company, never really, like, you had the British Commonwealth and you had the welterweight, even in the Toryumon days. It always felt like, to me, and the Bravegate in a way was, and this is not a zero answer. This is not just a bluff answer. It was more of a vibe-based championship, more so than a weight-based to me. And I feel like that when you like look at like the champions that really personified the belt, and Hyo is getting up there, and I feel like this is a good time for us to kind of move on to Hyo and Daya. He has to kind of make it into his own image. I mean, that was the whole like the whole reasoning about the white strap and all of that. And I think that when you compare that to, and I think that just because of a point of comparison, I think kind of works a little bit when you compare it to at least the Rossi promotions and how they've had either the high speed or whatever they're calling the new one now, Superfly. That's more of a stylistic change, and you have the referees counting faster, and you have that sort of mechanism there to differentiate it from the other singles belts. Hyo doing away with the weight limits and then just being like, you have to match me in the style of which I'm wrestling, which I think I at least it's been pretty clear that Hyo's wrestling the best wrestling of his entire life right now. I think that he's the guy to kind of take it and make it in his own image and make it a vibe-based belt.
Yeah, and then whoever beats him, it says the exact same thing. And the belt can be about what differentiates it from the Dreamgate is if you've got, let's say, Kikta as Dreamgate champion, or you're doing, bruiser style wrestling, heavyweight hard hitting wrestling, then you have Daya as Bravegate champion having a completely different match on the undercard. If you have Daya as Dreamgate champion doing high flying, then put the Brave Gate on Shimizu and have Shimizu be, do meaty men slapping meat matches in the Brave Gate division, which is something that it's never had before. And it would be so easy to do it in that honestly, the easiest way to do it is you have Yoshida come out and challenge Hyo. And, you do the comedy thing and where Hyo's like, you're not 82 kilos, are you? You haven't been 82 kilos since high school, and you do all of that. And you just have, what does a weight limit have to do with bravery? And Hyo says, you know what, you're right, I accept your challenge. And it's done. You don't have to do a press conference. You don't have to do a big thing. You just have the champion accept a challenge from somebody. You have him accept the challenge from Ishin. Ishin's 100 kilos again. And he says, like, I held that championship before. I want it again. And you accept the match, and then that's it.
I love the idea of the no weight limit for Hyo in particular. I worry that if they were to get rid of that on a full-time basis, then you start looking at, like, Strong Machine Jae is a Brave Gate champion, but there's nothing special about his title run. There's nothing special about his defenses. A few weeks ago, like, there was the Zack Sabre Jr. Hechicero match in Arena Coliseo that got a lot of buzz because it was great, and it was, just a full-on, and I say this as a compliment, but it was like a full-on Yave jerk-off match. It was great. And, I came on here and was like, man, I know Mike and I love Shisa versus UT from Prime Zone 5 years ago more than anybody else on Earth, but I wish there was something, especially when I feel like the rest of the world is aping the Dragongate style and often just doing it in a worse way. I really wish Dragongate would go back to or maybe not go back, but lean into a grappling intensive style of wrestling for at least certain matches to maybe help differentiate themselves from the rest of the world. And if the Brave Gate match, if there was just an unspoken rule that would be the focus of the Brave Gate belt going forward, I would love that. Again, I love the no weight limits thing for Hyo. I think they should go do that. I also think they should have done Kung Fuda when they had the chance, but nobody's listening to your ideas, Jay, which is a damn shame. But I worry about it just entirely losing its identity if that were the rule going forward.
Yeah, good point. That's a good point.
Because I don't think you want a heavyweight. I mean, Shimizu's one thing because Shimizu's so much bigger than everybody else. But it's like, I don't think I would want a Yoshioka Brave Gate run that's just Yoshioka having his version of a great match. I love Yoshioka. I loved his Dream Gate run, but I don't, because then the Brave Gate belt, like, even though the history of it is murky now, people that have been watching for a long time, it's like, that's the Brave Gate belt. We know the deal. We know what these matches should feel like. And if it goes on to Jay, or it goes on to Kai, or if it goes on to Yoshioka, then it's like a secondary heavyweight title. It's like a TV title at that point. And that, for at least the established guys on the roster, that probably does more harm than good, I feel.
Would Kai having the title for 2 months be any different from Gamma having the title for 2 months, though?
Well, it would be objectively better. By how much, I don't know, but it would be better than Gamma having any title ever.
Gamma's back.
Gamma's back, and I think I was the person to report on that on the Western Front, and me and only me, I think, outside of like the peer-reviewed news websites, because boy, did people not care about that.
Man, nobody gives a shit. Sorry to talk about.
No, please go ahead.
Talk about GLEAT again, but like, he wrestled on their Osaka shows, and their fans do not like him.
Even in Osaka.
Like they do not like the shtick, the spitting and all the gross out stuff like that. Like, that is not that. How has the domestic fan base changed? Yeah, Gamma doesn't work anymore. He retired. He retired for a year, and now, like, the world has passed him by. So yeah, Hyo and Daya. Very different from 2 years ago, yeah?
No kidding. I mean, Mike and I always laugh that I think we were the biggest Hyo fans on Earth from 2016 to 2021. And
Yeah,
then
I kind of planted my flag with Hyo a long
very
time
much
ago.
so. Mike has been on the money about Kame, and it took much longer with Hyo, but on the money on those two. But
I can somehow forecast shrimpy wrestlers. I can figure out which one the small guys are going to work out.
And like, I don't know, we've always liked him, but even watching the Corkin shows last week, it was like, oh, what's the difference between now and 2022? Hyo is 10 times better than he was in 2022, and we liked him then, but it was so much more character heavy that it was almost like if he was going to have a good match, it was going to be a good match in spite of the character. And now, you talked about the Twin Gate division maybe not hitting at the levels it once did. I feel like we probably said this last year at this time too, but I just want a Brave Gate match that knocks people's socks off. And I think Hyo has had a very good run, not a great run. And I think they really want this canonically to be a great run. So I'm hoping that this is the thing that, when we look back in 2 years and 5 years and 10 years, where it's like, oh man, remember how good that Hyo Brave Gate run was because of the Dia match. It's a lofty expectation, but it's what I'm hoping we get out of this.
Yeah, I think this is a the worlds have aligned sort of match, and that both of these guys are peaking going into this. Like I think both of them, Dia as well, they're both better than they've ever been in their careers, and they've been in the ring every single night with each other, and it's been better. Like you can see them getting more comfortable with each other and working everything out as from once the match was made last month, and then the matches in Kobe, and then the match in Korakuen, and the match in Osaka last week, and then their stuff today in Kyoto was also really good. That they both want to show out for this. Like they know that they've got the Twin Gate. Where are they on the card?
They're before Twin Gate, after Triangle Gate.
Yeah, it looks like this will be the go to intermission match.
It might be the back from intermission match. Yeah, either or. But yeah, they've got what's going to be a pretty. It's not going to be like, I don't think it's going to be a great, but I think it's going to be a pretty damn good Triangle Gate match before them, and then this Twin Gate match after them. So they're going to have to show out on this. So, I think you're right. I think if this isn't a new tentpole match for the modern Brave Gate division, then it'll be a letdown.
Yeah, because Hyo needs it. It's a thing with him where it's like, if you're watching every show, especially with the YouTubes, but even now, if you're watching every show, you get that this guy is not only, incredibly popular, but that he's doing really solid work. But there still isn't the Hyo match that if I'm, DMing with, people that perhaps have a little bit more influence or pull than me in the wrestling world, I can't go, oh man, you have to watch this Hyo match. Now the Flamita match was as good as we've gotten so far, but I like the Kanda match even a little bit more, but the Kanda match was maybe just a me thing. This just needs to be on another level so that the larger wrestling world can kind of understand where Hyo's at right now.
Do you have him break the record?
Yeah, I think that's what they're going for.
And I feel like after the years where like the Brave Gate, it's been like, oh, everyone was constantly like restoring the feeling of the Brave Gate, and like that was always such a plot point. We've seen Hyo, like now suddenly he has the defenses that he's going after the defense record, but he very quietly put together just some of his most complete work, and matching that up with Dia, who I have to say, like Best of the Super Juniors, coming back from that, it feels like he is more relevant now than he's been since the spring of 2022. Like it was exactly given what happened to Yoshioka and his retina that he was kind of out in the wilderness until Best of the Super Juniors popped up. And it just like in a lot of ways, when we start talking about 2024 and Dragongate, I feel like this a revival of Dragon Dia into this position should not be forgotten when we talk about Hyo and other people.
Yeah. I don't know. So do you guys think Hyo's going to retain?
Yes. I don't know if he'll break the defenses record, but I think he's winning here.
Yeah, I think he's going to probably have a couple more defenses in front of him.
He feels hot enough to where it's justified. I don't know, especially with Monte being gone in most of August. Kame you can kind of stick anywhere, and I think he'll be okay. But I don't really want to see Hyo without this belt right now. It'd be a bit of a letdown because I think, again, even if he doesn't have the thing that he's done, he's working well enough to where I want to continue to see where it goes.
Yeah, I could see that.
Let me ask you a question real quick, Jay. In regards to timing, because we kind of talked about maybe the lack of great Bravegate matches over the years, and I think part of that is sometimes a Bravegate match is 9 minutes long, where it feels like if it was 12, it would be a really great match. And Mike and I just went back and watched some Infinities from 2014 for this pod. And one of the things that took me aback was how long everything on those Infinities were. And this was Hokkaido double shot from 2014. And I know with COVID, there were the strict curfews, but is there maybe just a difference in philosophy within the office of like, hey, shorter is better? Because it feels like on these big shows, especially, we continuously get into a point where it's like, oh man, if that Bravegate match was 3 minutes longer, it would have been great, but it wasn't, and so it was just okay.
Yeah, it's more Toriumon Japan was more that way. If you go back and look at a lot of Toriumon championship matches, there were very rarely any singles matches that went 20 minutes, but much less over.
Yeah,
and a lot of the NWA welterweight stuff and those matches, they tended to top out at 11 or 12, at 15 at the high mark. It wasn't until Magnum got more. Well, it wasn't until Ultima left and Magnum started booking that you started getting, because Magnum wanted to do 27 minute matches because he wanted to be out there for 27 minutes, longer than everybody.
Because so that when you're not in front of a crowd, that feeling of importance goes away.
Yeah. So I think it's been more of a return to the Toriumon Japan style, and I don't necessarily. I would rather there be kind of like a happy medium, like rather than be like you said. If they were 12 minutes instead of 9 minutes, a lot of Twin Gate matches too. There were a lot of Twin Gate matches that were 13, 14 minutes, that if they were 16, 17 minutes, we would be mentioning them when we're talking about matches from the last Twin Gate matches from the last 3 or 4 years that
100%.
That were great.
Yeah.
That were great.
And it's on the big shows that's where I feel like they're getting into these timing issues where, Cork and they seem to have time to breathe, and maybe that's just because they can rush through the undercard and then do the title matches. But yeah, I like, especially like Jason's Bravegate run, he was in the midst of almost having a lot of great matches, and then you'd slap a 3.5 stars on them because you go, oh well, I guess it's over before it really was going to become something special. That's a bummer, and I feel like the Bravegate has been affected by that more than anything else.
Yeah, because it's a single. You can pack a lot more into a tag match or a 6-man tag match. If it's single, if it's a singles match, it feels emptier than it would if you had 4 guys going out doing all of their stuff in 9 minutes. So yeah. And I mean, I know what time the show is ending because I need to know so I can reserve my train to get home. I'm not worried about time. I mean, I think matches, let's see, they could do a 15-minute draw in the first match, but like matches 2 and 3 don't need to be longer than 45 seconds each. If I could be honest with you, like, I don't know, let Fuda do some stuff, and then Ryoya is in that match. So give like 4 minutes to match 2, and then just have Ishin kick Estrella in the dick immediately for a DQ in match 3. Like, don't even let the entrances end like that. That we don't need that. We don't need that match at all.
Well, you might get your wish on match 3.
Oh yeah. And then the entrances will be longer than the match in match 4. So.
Yeah, match 4 we have Shisa and Ichikawa back for that one.
Ichikawa in this match?
He is. He's the 10th guy. I guess it's Mochi, Genki, Araken, Shisa, and Ishikawa.
Oh, yeah, he is. I just separated the thing down. Yeah, they should have moved. They should have put They should have put Ishikawa and Shisa on the other team, and Kanda and Susumu on this team, so you could at least have Mochizuki, Kanda, Susumu, and Tako come out together.
Yeah, that's true. Do you know? And I want to bounce back to the Brave Gate here eventually, but since we're talking about Shisa and he's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, do you know how Shisa got back in the fold for this show?
Shisa was on the shit list, but everybody knew it was bullshit that he ended up on the shit list. And he's there in Kobe. He's at the taco shop. People are stopping by. People are seeing him. There wasn't any real bad blood with him. It was just stupid wrestling bullshit with him. Everybody everybody loves Shisa. And it just, there needed to be that appropriate period of time to make the petty bullshit. You needed to kind of have that cooling off period. And, everybody wanted him around. It's just stupid shit.
Well, there was the stuff with him and Tanizaki years ago, but I don't know. Can you speak on the more recent stuff? Because I don't know if I know it.
The shit list?
Yeah.
I guess it's been long enough. I get to talk about this. It's Gamma. So, Gamma would have left with Shima if, he was younger. But, Gamma was already in his 40s. He's got a family. He's got other businesses. Taking a risk, giving up the paycheck to, go to Shanghai just wasn't something that was going to happen. So he waited around, and then when he left, he took his retirement show, the show in Izu. That date was originally a Dragongate date, and he stole the date and tried to steal sponsors for that show, and it didn't work out. None of the sponsors went with it, but. And if you go and you look at who was on that show, that show was essentially the shit list. If you go and look at the people who showed up on that. But, Shisa, before any of this happened, agreed to work on that show. Or agreed to appear. I don't know if he wrestled or if he just appeared. And
no, it was him and Oji Shiba, and oddly enough, Naoki Tanizaki against Lindemann and T-Hawk and Yamamura's friend.
Yeah, so it became kind of guilt by association because he was going to work on that show, and because of all of the behind the scenes stuff that went on with that show, it became pettiness. People, people in wrestling people. I'm sorry for wrestling people that are listening to this, but you're all children. Like ego, the pettiness and the ego bullshit is just like so obnoxious. Like, and I've said this a million times on here, but like everything in pro wrestling, pro wrestling is a business. It's about making money. We all know that there's more money in these people all working together, right? Everybody knows there's bad blood. Everybody, there's more money to be made by all of these people in this particular conversation that I'm talking about working together. Obviously, we don't, we need Shima to be back. No, we don't need Shima to be back. But would the sum of Yamamura, T-Hawk, even we don't need T-Hawk back. But you know what I'm getting at.
Are you working security at the door if they try to get T-Hawk to come back?
I don't know how much longer T-Hawk's going to wrestle for.
Well, this is the never-ending rumor. I feel like for like 8 years now, people are like, I don't know how much longer he's going to wrestle.
Yeah, he's trying to get in. He's trying to get into fashion. He's trying to get into all these other things, and he was champion in Wrestle One. Wrestle One went out of business, and he was champion over there now during, Ishida's reign, and then his reign, where the reign tanked the company. So, I don't know what's left. Like if Shima retires, and I don't know how much, I don't. It was looking like he was going to be done this year, but he's coming back, so he'll probably have a couple more years in this. But when he's gone, is there an appetite for T-Hawk without Shima around, like without the Strong Hearts thing attached to it? You know what I mean?
Unfortunately, outside of 2014 Millennials T-Hawk, which I absolutely adore, he might be he might be wrestling the best matches of his life right now, at least over the last 12-month period. And maybe that's just the pressure's so off and everybody's given up on him actually mattering that it's just more digestible. But he's straight up having like really good matches.
People hated his reign. Like, GLEAT fans hate him.
God, everywhere he goes.
like Strong Hearts fans are behind him. Like he still has that, but like the people that are GLEAT fans, not the people that follow the Strong Hearts guys to GLEAT. Like they hate him. They hate him.
It's just wild to me. Like he somehow learned how to have at least exhibit personality for once, and he tanks another company.
Yeah, well, he was not, I don't think there's anybody here now that was around when he was here that's clamoring to have him back. I mean, Eita hated him, and he was a fucking tag partner. So
he would feel so out of place if he came back. I mean, Lindemann, I think, he's talented enough to where it'd be like, oh, Lindemann's back. He'll find a spot. This is going to work out. Ashita, I don't know, but I just can't believe how nothing Ashita has been for the last year and a half. T-Hawk would feel so out of place, and it would be so uncomfortable.
Yeah, and Ishida, and I said this a couple times now, that like if you're unhappy where you are and you want to bet on yourself, you should. And that's in any profession, not just in wrestling. That's just in life. If you want to bet on yourself, you can do it. But sometimes you don't win that bet.
Yeah.
Like he left because he wanted, why is it Minoura? Why isn't it me? And he went. He got a lights out post main event introduction. He got the main championship, and that's why you didn't get Minoura's push. Not saying Minoura's lighting the world on fire, but
well, it's funny because when he debuted and when he worked that first Korakuen show, which was the GLEAT show that was headlined with Jun Kasai in the tag match, I think to this day is their best Korakuen house ever. He felt really hot. And it's funny that he compares himself to Minoura because when he turned heel on his second show and joined Black Generation, it was the same reaction as the July 2022 Dreamgate angle with Minoura, where collectively an entire building went, I don't think that's it. I don't think we're going to like this. And it's been, outside of a great Lindemann match, it's been diminishing returns ever since.
Yeah, that's another. They haven't because their fans got attached to Bulk Orchestra as the heel group, and having them get pushed out in favor of a traditional shitty cheating heel group wasn't something that they wanted.
Yeah, the whole BGI thing for them as like the heel group, just as soon as they stopped having the kids over from Mexico, the group just is like, what are we doing with Kotaro Suzuki and Kaito Ishida as a tag team? Like, what's going on here? There was identity with Bulk Orchestra at the very least.
Yeah, and I don't, you should. I don't think you should come back for a few years, and and I don't think it would I don't think it would mean anything either way. If I could be honest with you, he could probably come in and kind of be a shit talking heel for a while, but it's one dimensional. He kind of don't get me wrong, he is very popular with the demographic. Okay, the young kind of crazy girls that want to spend a lot of money on their fave. Like, he's in the demo, demo god, or whatever the term is. He's got that. So like, he will always have that for him, but that doesn't always translate to being enough, I guess. Yamamura could come back. It wouldn't really matter either. He'd come back if he doesn't die after 2 or 3 years,
which is a big if.
I can't watch it. Like that, it's a personal thing. I
haven't watched. I watched his return match. I haven't. I can't do it.
Yeah,
and then who else
tough.
is there? There's OG. OG could come back, but who cares?
Not anybody.
Does OG come with his brother gym money attached to him? Like, are we doing it that way?
Kiki is already a sponsor, so we got the gym money already. We don't need OG.
I'm saying Kiki presents OG Shiba. Like we're doing full NIL thing here, Jay.
Yeah, actually, honestly, he's coming back though. Like, you just missed another year.
Yeah, he blew out his knee, right?
He blew out his other knee.
Christ,
poor dude. That family. Oh my god. Yeah. And then you've got the Blaze brothers. I think those are the only other people.
Yeah, and God. That's another one. You want to bet on yourself. That's fine, but you've got to live with the consequences on that. And I don't know. I feel like Fujiwara could come back and stick him in a room and let him detox and retrain him a little bit. Let him start from let him kind of start over and he's back in. I think that would work, but I don't know about the other guy.
Yeah, Fujiwara needs to split, go get a mask that no one knows, and spend 6 months with Skida, and then we can start talking. If you ask me, yeah. I think he's completely lost it.
Are they wrestling in Mexico?
Not really. No, like, that's the wild thing about all of this is
like Shima and Czech are getting more bookings than they are.
Right? Yeah, like they like really? DTU. They have like that tag team belts. I don't think, and Case, you're a little bit more up on Lucha right now than I am.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever seen like a match listing on Cubs Fan or anything come by talking about their tag team belts.
No, they don't. I mean, this is the thing with Takuma is like, we all agree sitting here that the 6 months he was in Dragon Gate, it was incredible. But that was 2 years ago, and it was 6 months of ring time. And it's so obvious when you watch him now that his development has completely stunted. If anything, it's gone backwards. And it's because he doesn't wrestle ever. I'm forever going to be a Kento apologist, and I look at his charisma and I go, well, if I was running a company, I could find a place for that on my roster. But I don't even think Takuma's good anymore because he hasn't developed anything. I think he's gotten worse, and he never gets booked in Mexico. And if it is, it's the Mr. Iguana and Nino Ambergasa's comedy matches,
which he's been doing for 2 years.
Yeah, they haven't had a for lack of a better term, like a hot fighting Mexico match since the DTU tag team title match that we thought was their like graduation from Mexico. So that was like January 23. And it was like, oh, they're going to come back to Japan because they dropped the belts after this great match. And that's been it. But I mean, I haven't seen them on a DTU listing in forever.
Too bad. Well, they were signed AAA, and I think we talked about this in the last show. Like what does that, what exactly does that mean, being signed to having a AAA contract? But I guess we know what it means now. Right?
Yeah, it's funny because there's like different levels of the people that are, in Kenta and Takuma's lives to some degree. There's, maybe rationalizing isn't fair, but AAA had the anniversary this year, and so they had a poster of everybody on their roster come out, and Kento and Takuma are on the roster, and so everybody was like, "Oh my god, maybe they're going to start using them." And Conan has said publicly, but I guess even behind the scenes, he's going, "Oh, those kids are so good. We're gonna use them. We're gonna push them." And then they're not only not pushed, they're just not booked. And then Shima comes into town for the Triple Mania show, and he's booked, and Czech is there in the opener, and those two are nowhere to be found, which is just so funny.
Well, I'm sure Conan tells Larry Dallas a lot of things. So, well,
so
happens,
we had,
right?
yeah, it's wild. Like I've did, like, their best case in AAA. I feel like is unwittingly becoming pawns in whatever proxy war between Tony Khan and Conan that's going on. Like, that's the only way they get picked up or used anymore, I feel like, and that's not going to happen.
No.
So, getting back to the Bravegate, Alan Forel had
that was like 25 minutes ago, but okay.
We've got one more point of the Bravegate we want to make.
Yeah. We had one thing that Alan Forel asked this question about Dia and the Best Super Junior, because we haven't really talked about that since. Alan asked, how to what extent has Dia and the Super Junior been seen as positive early? Internally, they certainly seemed excited about it beforehand. Do you think that they will want to get more of the Dragon Gate guys on the shows in the future, or if it was a special chance where they felt that he was not going to get tempted away and there was no leaving the mess? Whereas,
New Japan was not impressed with Dragon Dia.
Really?
Yeah. I guess the fans liked him, but powers that be, I guess, were not high on him. And who was what's the guy's name? The GCW guy that went over, and I saw a lot of people saying are they? They're giving this guy all these wins, and Dia hasn't got a win yet.
Was it Blake Christian?
Blake Christian,
yeah, super high on him. So.
Oh, that's an indictment of New Japan more than it is Dia.
I guess he came in with a new heel character or something like that, and they were really impressed with the character he came in with. So,
man, the heel character was just him being he looks like a dirtbag and he acts like a dirtbag. Like that. That's all that his character was.
Yeah, different sets of standards.
I guess.
I mean, I don't know. You could absolutely send somebody every year. You could send Ryoya next year, and then you could send Homare in 2 years. You could send guys at that level every year. But I personally don't think it's worth it to send, let's say, someone who's a top line guy. I would send somebody who just could do to have kind of the fresh perspective themselves. You know what I mean? Dia went, and in a way it's kind of a negative because Dia went. He said that the biggest thing was he didn't have to show up for the show to set up the ring or set up the merch stand. He could just show up for his match, and then he was waiting around after his match was done, and they were like, "No, you can leave now. Your match is done." So that was the biggest shock. That was the biggest takeaway he had. So it's kind of you don't really want guys to see that.
Yeah.
And I'm wait a minute, why do I have to be here? I have to get on the bus at 6:45 and set up the ring, and then get home at 1:45. That's kind of a negative from a Dragon Gate perspective. But no, I mean, I think sending guys who haven't had a chance to see those sorts of things, like I think those are the people you should be sending for this, because you're never gonna. It's difficult, right? Because I think that, let's say, diehard New Japan fan, right? They're not going to be convinced by anything. You're not going to go in. I don't think anybody is going to win them over. Like, Daya could have went and had the best match on the show every single night, and I don't think it would matter. So the diehard New Japan fans are not going to come and watch Dragon Gate because of that. And on a positive turn on that, Dragon Gate fans are not going to be affected by Daya losing every single match. It's just going to make them. It's just going to solidify their support for him, and you've seen it. He's come back more popular than ever. Like, he's legitimately the most popular guy on shows. Like, between it's usually between him and Gil on every single show, and who's the most popular guy on the show. So, like, it was a win. It was a win sending him to do these things. But at the same time, I don't think it moved any sort of needle in any direction. And then when you look at, there is kind of the negative side of it, that if you're a fence straddling fan, let's say, you're kind of like, you mostly watch New Japan, but you do pay attention to other promotions. There is that stigma of, if you send someone like Daya, he's not the top guy, but he's a top line guy, and he goes and he loses all these matches, that the people that do think in this sort of way, they think, Dragon Gate is so beneath New Japan in that they can't even get a win for this guy. There are people that think that way, and that is kind of a turnoff. That's a negative. And then the other side of that is the obnoxious, and this is, New Japan fans, and you see this with WWE fans or AEW fans or whatever, in that it becomes the tribalism thing, and it's become, this top guy from Dragon Gate came to our company, and look at his results. The people that treat it that way. So that's 3 negatives and 1 positive out of it. So sending people over for kind of the experience and the perspective, yeah, but having expectations out of it, I don't have any expectations about it. I don't get, I didn't see. It didn't care either way, and Taguchi's going to come and do the payback, and who cares?
Which I'm perversely excited by. I don't know if I've been excited for a Taguchi match in 5 years, but I kind of think that could be really fun.
Yeah, but it'll be meaningless, it'll just be kind of a match on the card. It'll be fun. And I don't think there's any New Japan fans that are specifically going to come to a Dragon Gate show to watch Taguchi.
No, not for Taguchi, no.
Yeah, so, and that's, I would, obviously I would much prefer to just have Yoshioka back and have that be a proper D-Courage Z-Brats 4-on-4, or somebody else in that 4th spot that is joining up with D-Courage to actually make it a proper story advancing match, and not just, throwing ass.
Yeah, no, it would have been, I mean, I want to forcibly put Daiki in a unit myself, because I feel he's ready. And much like how we talked about with Tanaka last time, the greatest thing to happen to Tanaka was, yes, joining D-Courage, but okay, now he's on the road full time. Now he's not wrestling in an undercard 8-man that goes 5 minutes. Now he's in real D-Courage matches, and he's getting better. And I think Daiki's gotten so much better, and I just wish they would do something with him. Fuda is, I think we all think very highly of Fuda, and there's a risk reward there. But Daiki, it's like, just give him something to do. He could have been the 4th man of that match.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do with Daiki. I certainly don't know what they're gonna do with Fuda. I can see a situation where both of those guys get for Akihiro or Yukato in terms of like guys who end up with with a unit, and who knows when those guys are debuting, but I don't know. I like Fuda a lot, and I would have put Fuda in gold class a long time ago, but it ain't like he's got entrance music finally.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
mean, it seems like they like Fuda to some degree, but it's they keep their distance also. Oh, maybe not. Okay, I'll take that back.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got a he's gonna have anything he gets. He's gonna have earned it. I'll just put it at that. And he's got a supporter in me.
Yeah.
I put him over every chance I have with everybody.
Well, he really does jump off the screen. I was afraid, especially after his most recent injury. I was like, oh man, maybe it's just not meant to be. Maybe he'll kind of lose whatever he had on this next comeback, and he hasn't. He's still like, when I see him in a Cork and over, it's like, man, he looks awesome here. He kind of just looks awesome every time he gets a chance to. I thought he and when he did the Fukuoka shows last month, I thought he and Owashi had great chemistry.
Yeah, Owashi's been really good.
Really fun. I call him on the show, I call him net positive Owashi. I understand not everybody wants to see him, but the Rey de Parejas match with him and Kondo against Shimizu and Jay, I thought was outstanding. And I think he's been really fun for this entire year.
Yeah. It's been nice having him around. It'd be nice if if brother and Sugawara could be around too, so like they could just have kind of those four guys doing stuff for a year. But brother doesn't work full time, and I have no idea what Sugawara is doing right now.
He's not the 0-1 heavyweight champion, because that, as of today, is Go Shiozaki. So when he's not holding the 0-1 belt, I have no tabs on him. I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, but 0-1 isn't even really a thing, because there's 0-1 and then real 0-1.
What was that one? Tochigi Pro, the other one?
The Tochigi, well, 0-1 and Tochigi Pro Wrestling are essentially the same thing.
Right, yeah.
And then real 0-1 is something else. But the Okimoto guy is retiring this month. This month? Is it Okimoto? Is that the guy that's this has absolutely nothing to do with anything. But I would have liked to see an Aganito match at World, or somewhere.
I thought that would be the Dragongate match before Junior joined. I thought they would have done, just from the way the card was shaping out, Vibes versus Agon, but they went with Gold Class instead.
Yeah, I mean, Kondo's not even on the show. Kondo's going to be on the Noah show. Owashi's on the DDT show that day. So those guys aren't even on the show at all.
Yeah, which I was so surprised by, because I assumed this whole year would be building up to Owashi doing something at World, and then not there.
Well, DDT is his main promotion, so DDT gets it first.
For sure.
And then so it is what it is. I'm sure we'll get maybe something. Who knows? I don't know what you really do with him. I don't know if anybody's really clamoring. He's got him out with Gianni, I guess, if Gianni comes back. Gianni could go full force at each other, and I think it would be pretty fun for 6 minutes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Mike, do you want to talk about the Dragongate match?
Yeah, let's get to that. We have Natural Vibes Forever, the 4th chapter. Strong Machine J, Shimizu, and UT. They're going up against the new tandem of Gold Class, BB Hulk, Minorita, and Mochizuki Jr. And Jay, I guess just leading off, we did a poll on the Voices of Wrestling site of the 30 best wrestlers under the age of 30, and the one person who really I felt like, at least for me, I was like putting my flag down with was Junior coming out of it.
Yeah.
And since his return from excursion and the matches he's kind of put up there, it, how is the company kind of looking at Junior at this point? Because it seems like to me now he's 2 years in, the training wheels are fully off. You did the dad match, and now we are kind of in this brave new world for him where gold class, I'm not specifically expecting to stay as gold class for a long time period, but it feels like now we're entering this new era of Junior's career, and I was just wondering your thoughts and opinions of it.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think when he left, people were expecting him to be gone longer than he was, and I don't know how much of that was just kind of a victim of the schedule in the UK, because from the impression I had is that once you get to the summer, a lot of their stuff moves more toward seminars and camps and things like that. At least that's what Kirby was saying when I was talking to him about this. And Junior's still hurt. He came back injured. He's still working. It's not serious or anything. He's working through it. But yeah, Dad. We're to the point now where he's on shows and Dad's at home, when it used to be the other way around, and that's a seismic change. And he'll have Benkei who could talk and carry the unit. Minoura's not necessarily estranged from them, but not, he's doing opening singles matches. So, Junior's gonna have a lot of chances to shine in this, and like Fuda, he's gotta stay healthy. He got injured twice last year, and he has to earn fighting back. If Fuda has to earn coming back from that stigma, it's only fair that Junior has to as well. Obviously, he's going to get more chances, and he's better than Fuda. So, but his best match was with his dad, and his best matches have been in matches with his dad and his uncle. So we've got to see what he can do outside of that now, and we haven't seen it. We haven't seen it yet. So,
what did you think of the Korakuen match? Obviously, you were on the call. I thought you and Ho-Ho did a great job. I enjoyed Ho-Ho. I know he realized it going into the match, but after Junior punched him in the face, Ho-Ho blurting out, that's his dad, was very, very fun. But what do you think of the match in Korakuen?
I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
I'm never a fan of. I don't like draws and double knockouts, but in this sense, in this situation, it made a lot of sense. It made a lot of sense because it's a to be continued.
Yep, very much so.
Dad himself, he kind of said that it's a to be continued, but who knows if the time, if I'm still going to be, if the timing comes around again for us to do another father versus son match, am I going to still be in the condition I need to be for it to be the same type of match that it was this time?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say this match comes around again in 3 years and Dad is 57 or whatever, and Junior beats him, and then it's you dunked on your 57-year-old dad. So that could end up being a sticking point for him going forward, in that he wants to get his dad back in the ring and beat him while his dad still has his jump shot. So
yeah, it makes sense.
We'll see. We'll see. And Dad has said multiple times that he doesn't want to do father versus son matches for the sake of doing them. So, it's going to be on Junior to get to a point where it's worthwhile to do the match again and have it be a big deal, because the first one was always going to be a big deal because it was the first one. But you've done it now. It's not new anymore. So.
Yeah, and it's a gift and a curse, because now there's an expectation there. So, if they do a second one, I'll be pumped. But now it also has to live up to the what I thought was the greatness of the first one.
Yeah, you can only do the first match once, and it was great. But obviously your dad is one of the all-time greats. So there was really that would be a big indictment if that match was not great.
Oh, absolutely. But
That,
I had as much faith in Junior as I did Father Mochizuki in that one, because I kind of feel like Junior is a guy who can rise to the occasion, and I thought he very much did. I think he's a guy who's built to work big matches, which is a bold thing to say about a 22-year-old, but I feel he is one of the people that the bigger the spot he's in, the more he's going to deliver.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so. We need Dragon Gate needs him to be that guy. Needs him to be one of those guys.
Yeah, that was like the thing that really stuck out to me while we were doing this is like, oh, he is really the one you look for like this year's the 25th anniversary. What is going to be the Dreamgate scene at the 35th anniversary and the 40th anniversary? He has to figure into it. Like he serves such like, and it's such a weight, I feel like, on someone who's only 2 years in the business. But when I like look at like the overall existential question of what does Dragon Gate look like after the Toryumon generation is gone, he needs to be the biggest through line. And I feel like that when Kay says like he's able to take this on his shoulders, I feel like that the bigger like he's showing this now, but the bigger tests are out in front of him, and I feel like they're almost like uniquely to him versus anyone else on the roster.
What do you guys think for the results here?
I think Gold Class has to go over.
I don't know. I don't
think
like,
so.
You think it's Gold Class, Jay?
Yeah, 100%. I 100% think Gold Class is winning this match. Or sorry, I think Natural Live is winning this match.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning towards as well. I look at Gold Class and I look at what's all happening with Kota Minoura, and it's all kind of penned to him. And I'm fully of the belief that Gold Class is not going to be a ongoing concern much deeper into this fall. So I wouldn't necessarily strap them up unless you're going to be having them be the core of whatever the next Benkei unit is.
Yeah, and it's not so much Junior as it is Minorita and Hulk that make me look at this and think that Vibes are winning this.
Because Minorita is not going to probably be Minorita much longer either.
Yeah, and I don't know what Hulk's condition is now these days or not, but I guess you only need to do a big Triangle Gate match once every 6 weeks. So I guess he could do it, but I don't know. I don't know if he wants to do it.
It feels odd though to if you're gonna have Vibes win, then you should have held off on Junior joining Gold Class.
No, I don't. Not necessarily, because it doesn't need to be, as long as Junior doesn't get pinned.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. But then who do you pin? Who's more protected at this point, Hulk or Minorita?
I think you can pin Hulk pretty easily.
Yeah, I think so too.
And a lot of the stuff that revolves, a lot of the story that revolves around Hulk is that he's the only one left. Well, Yamato is back up now, but Hulk, Yamato's in Paradox doing something totally different, and Hulk is he's in a young guy's unit, and that kind of forces him to be involved in young guys' matches. You've had matches where it's like Yoshioka, Daya, Kikuta, Minoura, Benkei, and then Hulk in there keeping up with those guys. So that's kind of been hit the main talking point for Hulk over the last 18 months, year and a half, 2 years. And that could be the story for him going forward. And that, he's in bad shape. He's not sure if he's the one possibly holding Gold Class back. He's the one that lost the fall. The young guys aren't the ones losing the fall. And then that goes one way, or if he heals up and gets back, it turns into a comeback story for him. So in this situation, I think that's the right way to go.
I can see that.
And it gives Machine J
a championship match in Yokohama.
Yeah, that's true. Mike referenced the 30 under 30 we did on Voices of Wrestling here a minute ago, and when we were compiling that list, compiling 11 through 30 was a real challenge because there were so many names you want to include, but compiling 1 through 10 was so challenging because they're just, like you said earlier, the lack of star power in Japan is evident right now. And not to go off on a complete other tangent, because we'll let you go here in just a minute, but the Yokohama shows without the presence of TN Revolution is such a killer. And I think collectively when that news came out, because that would have come out post Dead or Alive, so I don't think we've talked about that. The Nagano thing wasn't surprising to me from a conversation I had based on somebody, that was talking about just what poor shape he was in, unfortunately. But the Nishikawa thing was such a gut punch because he felt so different, not only in Dragon Gate, but just there's no historical comp for that. He was around exactly 1 month. He won all his matches. He came across like a huge deal, and then he was gone.
I think he's going to come back. I mean, not this year, maybe not next year, but I don't know. I feel like his story isn't done.
Oh, okay, I'm glad you said that because I kind of felt like a crazy person for thinking that, but I'm of the same line of thinking.
But and let me stress, he's a college graduate. He has a degree. He has, in sports medicine. He has 2 jobs already outside of wrestling. He's got something to do in the off season, and then he has a baseball related job to do in season. It's not like wrestling was the only thing he had. And here's the thing about him is you have to keep it here again, university graduate, which means if he joined the dojo, April 2020, he came in 2020. Yeah, 2020. He was in the class with so at 24, 25, we had the same birthday, April 8th. So it would have been a week before his 24th birthday that he joined. And so 1 year in the dojo, 24 to 25 in the dojo. So that's a year of telling your friends, I'm going to become a pro wrestler. My dream is coming true. He crowdfunded for, the entrance fees and everything. He made t-shirts. He had a lot of support from people in his university. And, he thought, I'm going to become a pro wrestler. That's my dream. You're supporting me. Thank you. 1 year in the dojo. And then 1 year in Mexico. So already we've gone from 24 to 26. And then you come back with all that pressure, blow your knee out. The injury was minimum 1 year. So we're 3 years lost at that point. By the time he comes back, his career isn't really even starting until he's 27. And, if he had joined at 18, like some of these other guys, and he was 22 coming on the off side of this, then I think he would have stuck it out. But, to have lose all that time, that's 3 years of 4 years of telling people I'm going to become a pro wrestler, and you're not a pro wrestler. You've wrestled 3 matches and you're injured, and then getting injured in that spot. So not only the physical toll that, blowing out your ACL has, it was, a life-changing injury. That when you're coming in and you want to be like Ricochet and you blow your knee out and you've got 13 months of rehab, there's physical damage, but then, the mental toll of getting injured in that situation, he wasn't coming, it got announced after Dead or Alive, but it was, his mind was made up a long time before that. There was that period where they were waiting for the swelling to go down to see how bad the injury was. But, once it was like, it's a rupture, you need surgery a year before you can run and do, any sort of anything in a wrestling ring. There was no coming back for that. But because of that, I do think he's always going to have that, there's going to be that what if in his head. And, I think, they'll go to Yokohama and he'll come and say hi, and I don't see him not getting the bug again. And whether that, he comes back in earnest and returns to the ring, I don't know, or whether, he just kind of kicks the idea around and trains a little bit and decides not to do it. I don't know, but I would not be surprised if he tries to give it another go.
This was a question in our Discord real quick. BTF was actually curious about this, of the young guys that have stepped away recently, Ricky and Shoya Sato and Fujikawa and Tien. Are any of them around? Do any of them say hi when Dragongate comes to their town still, or are they all pretty much MIA?
Well, I mean, Ricky's Ishin's brother, so
Yeah.
he doesn't come around, but he's not on bad terms. I saw Tien. He was at a Korakuen, not long after the announcement. Actually, he came to say hi. He was around. Nagano's back home. I'm not in Fukuoka, so I don't know if he's around or not. But the guys that left on bad terms are the guys that are wrestling in other places.
Yeah.
The guys that retired and got a retirement announcement, they can come say hi at any time.
Has anybody heard from Sato?
Yeah, I feel like he's up. He's up in
Sendai, right?
Small town in Yamagata.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he's from same prefecture as DM is. And, he's back as a teacher in his hometown, and they only go. I feel like I saw him on somebody's Instagram when they went to Yamagata recently. I don't know if it was in a poster in the story or what, but he was somewhere. So,
Good.
But I mean, there's only going to go to only a chance for him to come and say hi once a year, because they only go around there once a year.
Yeah.
It's still nice to and I feel like you laid out pretty well. I think when you look at your Rickies and your Satos, and even I would guess or Fujikawa would have had that situation there. That I feel like that you have certain lanes that you enter Kobe, the dojo, in, and if you're someone who, I mean, there's a lot of differences, and of course Sato and his trials and tribulations to actually debut, but when you're of that age, and especially out of college, I feel like it seems like that you've already lived as a civilian and have done that, and it's kind of it's harder to come back when you've already been an adult, I guess, in a way. And
yeah, and you've earned you've earned a civilian salary and not a
right. Yeah.
Independent pro wrestler salary. There's certain levels of life experience on that side. And Fujikawa just wasn't any good. Wasn't any good at it. He showed a little bit, but people got injured really quickly, and he wasn't. I don't want to say this 100%, but I don't think he was super high regarded. He wasn't disliked or anything, but he had a lot of challenges coming back, and he got passed by a lot of people, and I think he made the right decision. I would have liked to see him stick around. He was a good kid, but I think it takes a lot of courage to make a decision like he did. But then you've also got people like the policeman, who is he ruptured his ACL, but he's coming back. He's not giving up. He's gonna come back.
He felt like he was just about
Figuring it
to
out.
really turn a corner
Yeah.
right when he got hurt. I
Yeah.
really liked the trios matches he was doing at the start of the year.
Yeah, he was something very different. He was a young guy with a very non-Dragon Gate style, so to
Yeah.
speak.
And I always like felt like he had like a certain never woke up on the right side of the bed kind of charisma that just was so different. Like the closest thing I felt like was like frankly like heel Shingo kind of charisma that the company hasn't had in a long time.
Yeah.
Well,
And,
and,
I think
go ahead, Jay.
I've told the story quite a few times, but that when I was doing the young boy interview with him, where it's just like, what's your background? What kind of wrestler do you want to be? And he's like, well, I was a police officer and I believe in justice, so I want to be a hero of justice. And I'm just like, everybody looks at him like, you're a big guy with a mean face, you're going to be a heel. And he frowned, but everybody around him, it was Junior. I was talking with Junior. The Junior was like, yeah, heel, nodding his head. And, some people are just born for it.
Yeah, he stood out in a way that wasn't necessarily negative, but also wasn't necessarily positive when he first debuted. And I think it was JoJo, it was our mutual friend, JoJo Remy, who when he went to Corkin last year was like, he hadn't seen Kato wrestle yet. He was like, oh my God, it's like they stole a Big Japan strong guy. Like he looks so weird. But right before he got hurt, he was still Kato. He had his personality and his size, but he was more Dragon Gate than he had ever been before. And that was such a bummer. That injury was just the worst time.
God. Well, that's three blown knees on three completely routine things, right?
Yeah.
Minarita was what? Blocking an Irish whip, reversing an Irish whip, and Tien was having to readjust on a regular stomp, and Kato was slipping behind on a suplex.
I think so. Yeah.
I thought one of them, it was Tien's, was he just planted and his knee buckled. It was
but my take on that, at least my view on that, when it happened, because he had been doing like this really shitty elbow drop, like a spinning elbow drop. He'd been doing either like a body slam or a snapmare, and then doing just like this really American pro wrestling elbow drop off the rope. And it looked like he was going to do that, but Ryoya didn't go down. He stayed upright, sitting upright, and he had to readjust coming off the rope to not do the elbow drop, and he planted and his knee blew out. And that's it.
And now we don't have a possible giant star in Yokohama.
And now he's never rolled out of it. And God, it's funny because Ho-Ho was overseas somewhere while it was happening. So I saw it happen, and I was just like, God, Tien just ended his career. He blew his fucking knee out, joking, because he rolled to the floor and was kind of walking it off and kicking it away. But yeah. Yeah.
Nostradamus.
Yeah.
Saw the future.
No, my exact words to him actually were, because we were calling him Lucio Revolution. So I was calling him Lucio. I said, God, Lucio just blew his fucking knee out. He's going to be gone for 7 years. So let's see if he comes back in 2030. Then I got it right.
Real quick as we wrap up here, I want to talk about Minoura in that whole situation before we close out, but also Chocolate Flake Kobe coming back on this show. I asked you about Shisa, how he ended up back in the fold. I mean, we haven't seen Chocolate Flake since 2001, right?
Well, he was at the 2006 reunion. He was at something else too, something recently, because there's a picture. He was at something while M3K was active, because there's a picture of him in the jacket.
Oh, okay. I vaguely remember this. Okay, yeah, that's right.
In like a green and black jacket. I mean, he lives in Kobe. He's a business owner in Kobe. You know, it's not like he's been off the radar this entire time. He left wrestling to get into another business. He's always been in contact, and you know, he's not going to get back. And injuries took him out of the ring. He's not going to get back in the ring.
It's a shame because he looks
that.
great. He looks super fit.
So he'll come and he'll do the Iron Claw, and it'll be a thing, and you know, it'll be a big pop. It's good to have him. Good to have him around.
Yeah,
so
I'm looking forward to that.
We got to talk about the opening match.
Yes, let's do it.
Yeah. So Ikuta versus Minoura. So guy that main evented last year and the guy that main evented 2 years ago, and they're in the opening match.
I feel like it comes down to where Minoura goes after August 1st, right? Like this match being the opener, Kakuta calling him out for not being at the standard that he thought he was going to be at. I'm for that. It was pretty clear that Kakuta was not going to figure into like a title plan. As soon as Daya was in the Bravegate scene, they weren't going to have Kakuta and Tanaka go for the Twin Gates. So I like this.
It was Yoshioka was supposed to be back, but he got doctor stop. He's gonna come back. He's not, but just more time than expected.
I'm very glad they did what they did at Korakuen, where we physically saw him. I'm glad they did that.
Yeah,
but like,
I was happy to see him. I was like, I thought ChatGPT was writing your columns, and he made a face. I think ChatGPT is writing his columns, so at least he's the one doing the prompt.
I mean, there's people that's their job now making up those prompts. So who's to say he's not?
And look, it's a good career path. If he can't come back, he could be a prompt writer. I could probably get him a good job for that right now.
But I guess, Jay, like the question about Minoura is, I think I'm the one who's a little off on a branch here. It feels like to me that this is like the classic lose all your matches and saying I've got to go get stronger. I can't do this. I leave gold class. I can't lead gold class anymore. So I'm breaking up gold class. Y'all figure yourself out. I feel like after August 1st, if we're not getting Dark Masquerade, we are getting Kota Minoura going on excursion somewhere.
Yeah, he didn't like him. He didn't like the U.S. I don't know if they could talk him into that. But I don't know. I think if they were gonna I think if he was gonna go heel, it would have happened already. But I mean, do you think there's more juice in him turning heel and being heel for 2 years than there is in a comeback story?
Yes, because I felt like King of Gate last year was the attempt at the comeback story, and it worked in the tournament, and then it felt like it all just died in the lead up to the Kakuta challenge.
Okay. So if he, let's say, he loses Ikuta here, loses to Minorita in Korakuen Hall, and he's in opening matches for another few months, and eventually comes back around and beats Yamato in Fukuoka, or beats Benkei in Fukuoka. I mean, do you see a path to that?
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm of the
a path that works.
It's a path. I don't know if it's a path that works. I don't think he can win the Dreamgate belt in gold class gear. And I think he's successfully evolved past the summer of 2022. I'm not holding that against him, but this doesn't. I can't see him as a babyface champion or even a tweener champion until he does like a hard heel reset.
Yeah, I'm not saying I 100% agree with that, but I do think that is probably the prevailing opinion on him.
Yeah, I don't even think him going away for a little bit, like Mike said, we were talking about that last week, and it's just like, I don't know, if he does another, 4 months in the UK and then he comes back, but he's the same guy, then I'm just looking at the same guy. It's just taken longer. And, that only opens up the door for for Yoshioka to come back and Kikuchi to get hot again, and for Junior to develop more. And it's just like, I don't know. I think I personally, because I was a huge Masquerade fan, I like the idea of Shun somehow recruiting Jason and Minoura into his unit, whether it's Z-Brats or something else, if they shake that up. I really like that story, so that's kind of where I'm leaning.
Mm-hmm. What do you do? Okay, who stays then if you do that? So you've got Ishin, you've got Policeman, you've got Kai. Who from that do you?
You got to turn Kai, because Kai's been a heel now for 4 years, and I think like I'm pro Kai. I think he does a very good job. I also think we've maximized what we can get out of that character, and so even if it's him joining Paradox, let's say, all right, let's kick the tires on that. Just for the benefit of, okay, then you can turn him heel again in a year if you need to. But Kai is the guy that to me is the odd man out there.
Mm. What about Policeman? Do you keep Policeman with them when he comes back?
I think so. I mean, he's a heel. He might want to be a babyface. Even in the comeback, he might come across like a babyface, but he's a heel.
I would even fake swerve his comeback, making it look like he was going to align with his generation, or like gold class, I guess, since that would be Rita and Junior in there, and then immediately turn on them, like make the fake save, and then like redefine yourself. Like, yeah, no, I'm heel, and do it that way.
Okay, I'm gonna tell a story. So here's, I had Tien Revolucion's comeback booked perfectly on this, because here's some backstage. He was going to join Zebra. That Korakuen show, they took pictures of him in a Zebras costume before the show. So he had Zebras gear made, and they couldn't do it on the first night in, because it was his first night in, and there were all the people there to see him. It had to be a triumphant homecoming, but he was going to join Zebras, and he's gone for 7 years, so he couldn't join Zebras. But someone else joined Zebras in his place, and wore that costume that Tien took pictures in, wore it in his first match as a member of Zebras. So
I was wondering why that gear kind of looked a little off.
Perfect story. You come back, he comes to the ring, walks out, and says, "Hi, remember me? Hi, I'm back. So here, let me, I'm sorry for all the trash I talked and for letting people down, and I'm going to start over. I'm going to do my best. But here, I've got one thing to say. I've got one grudge here. Most people don't know this, but I had agreed to join Zebras. When I got injured, I didn't hear anything from Shin Skywalker. I didn't hear anything from anybody. I'm in the hospital. I turn on the TV, and I see this ex-police officer wearing my ring gear that he stole from my bag in the dojo. He's an ex-police officer, but he's wearing stolen gear. And that's something I can never forgive. I mean, it's fucking perfect, but, maybe in 7 years. Anyway, yeah, I think Kato needs to stay heel when he comes back. And obviously you're not going to get Daya and Estrella into a new version of Masquerade, so.
How much longer are we expecting Esto staying around, or is it still paperwork we're looking at?
I asked him, and I was like, "So, what do you think?" And he's like, "I hope soon." I think maybe after World. I think World or around that is when he's looking at wrapping up.
Does he just love Mexico?
He fell in love with traveling, is what he fell in love with.
Interesting.
He's the only one. He has the entire dojo to himself right now, and that that's obviously a big plus. But the freedom of being able to go and wrestle in front of different audiences and kind of make his own schedule and go and see different people and make friends from different. He fell in love with the lifestyle, and I think, and for some people that just suits them better. And he's one of those people, and good for him. Good for him.
Yeah, I mean, everybody I talked to on the U.S. indie side of things that has worked with him, I'll only have good things to say, and they talk about how happy he is, both in America and in Mexico.
Yeah, and he says that to me too. And every time I see him, he's just like, "Oh, hey, how are you? How are you?" And I'm just like, "Oh, can't wait to leave, right?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, yeah." And they're not doing fit with him here, so he should go and have fun, and there's considerably more value for the company in him being that than there is just him being here and being a mid-card guy, because if he can go and be the one that can teach, so if Homare Kato goes to Mexico in 2 years, we don't have to worry, Ho doesn't have to teach him how to do all these things by WeChat in the middle of the night.
For sure.
Esto can be Esto can be the one that can speak to him in his own his own language, take him places, say, okay, this, you're in Mexico, this is how you talk to promoters, this is how you get your license, this is what you have to do to get bookings, because you've got situations like Junior couldn't figure it out when he was in the UK. And, that's not 3 months is not a long time to figure things out, so that's not a knock on Junior. But if you get sent to a place where La Estrella is, and La Estrella can teach you how to get bookings, then, that's very valuable to the company. So
for sure.
I hope that there is no, like, well, if you don't want to be here, get the fuck out type of feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it feels like in a similar way. I was listening to a podcast that was like talking about Major League Baseball and the Japanese interpreters. Of course, it was about like the Shohei Ohtani, Ippei, Mizuhara situation. But like having someone there, like that was the big takeaway I got out of it. Was like, all right, these translators are essentially their assistants. Like they are their lifeline in a different country, and having someone who is already versed in with like the way that the wrestling world works, at least in those kind of places, is just a big bonus. And it was something that, at least until you brought that up, I didn't think about before, but it makes perfect sense to me, like how valuable it is to have someone like that there, and being able to always have like that kind of person. It's like, oh, just text Esto and he'll take care of you.
Yeah, exactly. And most importantly, you can text him in your own language, which is which is a big deal, because when Esto first showed up, like I was helping Esto out a lot. He was sending me these English messages from promoters, and I had to translate it back for him. And I was like, God, is this guy going to be okay? But after 3 months, I stopped getting those messages, and he's been fine since then, and that's great. And if he can go and be that, then I think that's a win for the company. He can go, he could be happy, and everybody can be happy.
For sure.
Absolutely. Well, Case, did you have anything else you wanted to touch on before we let Jay go? I mean, we've taken up your entire night, Jay. Thanks so much.
I thought we were going to talk about 25th anniversary stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we kind of got away from that. We have the 25th anniversary coming up. I know, Case, you had a little question about footage about that.
Oh, yeah, we can do this real quick, because I don't remember if I asked you this in May or not. I know I meant to, but it's come back up in the last week because there's a new WWE Vault YouTube channel that uploaded the Morishima matches.
And a DGUSA match, right?
Yes, yeah. And then there was a Generico Samurai del Sol Evolve match that went up yesterday. But it also coincides with the network putting up that first next show, which I'm really hoping is the start of a bunch of next footage to come out. But I'm curious, are there Holy Grail Dragongate or Torimon matches that you have that were filmed or possibly filmed that have never seen the light of day? Because I always reference of course, the Shima Ricochet Dreamgate match, but also the Shingo Shisa singles match from the Hokkaido Triple Shot in 2016. That was a part of a TV taping, but never made tape. It was cut, for King of Gate matches instead.
Oh, I have Shima. I have Shima versus Ricochet. That was on a DVD, so that exists.
Okay, I'll follow up with an email to you after the show.
Okay. Yeah, no, that it's not complete, but it was on a DVD. It was on a DVD, so that
Okay.
exists. Anything that was in Hakata from that time period, that Hakata stuff wasn't on TV. It all exists on tape, but it is owned. If it didn't make it to DVD, it's lost forever because it's owned by TMC. So
Yeah, because I remember the Yamato Susumu match, the Dreamgate match they had aired at intermission at World the next year, but
yeah.
Unless I'm misremembering, I don't think World 2013 was on Ustream, so it didn't air that way.
Yeah, I have that too somewhere. That and then Shima versus Horiguchi was the other Dreamgate match. That was Yamato versus Horiguchi is I think the Dreamgate match.
Yeah, from from 2014.
That is I think lost forever. That might be somewhere. Do I have that? That might be on a DVD somewhere.
Yeah, that'd be nice if the network had a little vault section like that.
To get if it's from Hakata, they can't put it up. But the next, I forgot to ask. I meant to ask in Korakuen, and I forgot to ask. So basically, we'll just have to wait and see if another show goes up this month. Then yeah, they're uploading all. They have them all. They taped them all. My producer Maeda-san, filmed all of them. He was the one who filmed all of them with a hand camera. So they exist. They still have them. If they put them up one a month, it'll take what, 10 years?
Yeah, which is a bummer because it's like 2013 through 2016 is what I really want to see from any of the next stuff.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff like the little festival shows that they would do. For a couple of years they did a midnight show after World where everyone came back to the Sanctuary building and did a show that was they did it was Shima versus KZ after Shima's Dreamgate. After one of Shima's Dreamgate matches, and Shima was in a neck brace, and KZ beat him by referee stop. There's a lot of a little weird, little cool stuff on those shows. There's cool stuff. 2008 actually is peak neck. So we'll get to that if it's once a month. We'll get to that in 2026.
Oh, great!
So please look forward to it. There's it was Yamato and Cyber Kong versus Pizza Boy and Super Shenlong 2 match. It was incredible for this, and Shenlong did it because the Sanctuary building. It was literally just you have this small corridor to stand. He did this tope and just fucking wiped this fan out. It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Because that stuff. Dragongate had a very prototype streaming service in 2007, 2008, and all this stuff was on there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, was this the Gaora linked one?
It was. It was called Webgate.
Oh right, yeah, I remember that one. Or seeing ads for it.
Yeah, then that went down, and they moved everything over to Nico Nico, but Nico Nico didn't have anything. It was just TV. It was just TV stuff. They didn't put up anything unique. But unfortunately, due to limitations at the time, the Webgate stuff, just there was no way to archive it, or at least I wasn't good enough with tools at the time to because you needed a VPN to get to it, and it was this whole thing. So unfortunately, all that stuff is lost forever. But there's a lot of stuff, all of the Korakuen shows from the time when Infinity was a clip show. All that stuff exists in full somewhere, and when Gower goes out of business, I don't know who will own it, but
Yeah,
probably too big of a zip.
hopefully Tony Khan.
Hopefully, yeah, too big of a zip file to send to me.
Jay, I was going through my brain. I was like, all right, I have a network attached storage that I have for work that has 24 terabytes on it. Can I make this work if they send me a zip file?
Well, I keep everything on. What is my? I think I'm at 13 terabytes now, and once Google Drive went from once they tightened down on the policy to where you had to pay for 5 users to get unlimited storage, like I had to move because it was not affordable, so I had to move off that. All of my stuff is in AWS Glacier now, so it's not even accessible. Like if I wanted to access it, I mean, like I have everything on local drive, too,
Sure,
but like I have a NAS that I have everything on, but like it's not online. It's just dumb local storage. Like when it was on Google Drive, it was cool because like I could plex it over, and like if I was in the gym, I could throw a mass on while I was on the treadmill and all that stuff. I can't do that anymore because it's all on Glacier.
Hey,
And
but
it'll be super expensive when the time comes to move it somewhere else.
But like the plus side of that, at least with AW Glacier, is I've always joked with Case that whenever I'm dead and gone, I'm going to be in my will shipping him all of my episode notes for VoiceGate over the years. We don't have to worry about like if the apocalypse happens about Dragongate footage because you've got it taken care of. The AWS has
Yeah, well, yeah. When you guys are gonna have to order, I'll have to make it so one of you guys gets the snowball.
Oh, it's got to be
We'll have
Case.
to send-
Oh, I was gonna
Yeah,
say, please ship it to Mike. Let's.
yeah. Don't ship it to the archivist. Ship it to the young guy.
I don't know. Please, I'll take and find. I get
or
very
I'll-
worried about all footage drying up again.
or one of these days I'll be completely fucking done with this company. I'll be super mad at Music Man, and I'll just fucking delete all of it out of spite. One of these
Okay,
days,
well,
because
don't do that. That's my biggest fear in life.
That's very in character for me. Remember?
I remember.
Oh, yeah,
I remember
no.
worrying you were dead 5 years ago when the website went offline.
Yeah. No, I was at the dentist when that happened. Because I was getting a wisdom tooth removed. I was at the dentist, and they put me under. I had the wisdom tooth removed, and I woke up and I had a bunch of warning emails from fucking Google Cloud saying, your server's down, alert your server's down, your website's down, I'm like, oh, what the fuck happened? So I'm all fucking high on, hepped up on goop balls with bleeding from the mouth, and I go home and I'm like, what happened? And I go, and the fucking kernel panic on the server, I can't restore it. I'm like, okay, when's my most recent backup? And my most recent backup was like May 2016 or something like that. I'm like, hey, I'm fucking done with this. Because I was like really, really high on painkillers.
Well, it worked out. I'm glad you're still here. I'm glad you're doing commentary. I say it to you every time you're on, but I think you and Ho are a genuinely excellent commentary team. I outside of promo translations, I feel I could follow along if I was watching Japanese commentary, but I choose to watch you guys. I think you guys are killing it, and I'm very excited for Kobe World.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I hope everybody else is excited. I don't know how much hype we did over the last 2-3 hours, but no, it's gonna be a good show. It's gonna be a great show. I know everybody is really motivated to go and make it really important. And again, you guys touched on it at the top. This is, for better or worse, this is a show that we're doing, that is being done completely in house. There's no outside guests. Everybody that's here is, the two outside people are Chisa, who was a day one guy, and Chocoflake, who was a day one guy, because without the investment from Taco and Taru's company, it wouldn't have been possible to set Torimon Japan up. So it's two people that have been here since day one. Those are the only outside guests. And, me and Ho are volunteer workers, essentially. And we all know it's the biggest show of the year, so we're gonna make sure it's the best show possible for you guys.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again, Jay, for joining us.
No, it's my pleasure. Happy to be here.
And that's going to do it on our Kobe World preview episode, Open the Voice Gate. We'll be back with you actually the day of the show. Case and I will be doing live day or close to live reactions to the biggest show in Dragon Gate's year and the 25th anniversary of Kobe World. Again, Kobe World is on July 21st from Kobe World Cannon Hall. Jae Church and Ho Loon on the call. Thanks for everyone for listening, and we will be back with you to talk about Kobe World next week. Take care, everyone.
Hello, everyone. My name is Taylor.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are the co-hosts of Jumping Bomb Audio, the #1 show all about the world of Joshi Pro Wrestling. Episodes drop every other Monday, where we discuss the biggest Joshi news, review shows, and preview the hottest upcoming Joshi action.
So whether you're a new fan or an old fan, we've got something here for you at Jumping Bomb Audio.
Check us out on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network.